Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
And now the short pitch to Smith, and Smith spins out of it. And Smith inside the 15, looking for the corner, and gets it. Touchdown, Bears. DeAndre Coburn whipped at the line of scrimmage, and Smith sped off for 32 yards and a score.
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Play fake. Throw to the end zone. Wide open. Latu touchdown, Alabama.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
C.D. Lamb, and he takes it in for another Cowboys touchdown. And an exclamation point here in Week 16.
Now here's David Smoak and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go. This Tuesday afternoon, the eve of Big 12 Media Days up at AT&T Stadium in Arlington. We will be there bright and early tomorrow when Dr. Linda Livingstone of Baylor, the president, introduces new commissioner Brett Yormark. His first words as commissioner, other than a press release, he'll be tomorrow morning, bright and early, 8:30. We'll be there. We'll also start from that time all the way up until our show at 3 and through the show at 6 with interviews, and already with numerous confirmations of various head coaches, handful of ADs, players as well, and then, of course, whatever else we bring your way. Craig Smoak to my right. Paul is out. He's back next week. He's in Hawaii, as we mentioned on yesterday. Today, here is not yet, the great Garrett, but, you know, there's this initial rush that when Texas, in fact, and Oklahoma left, and it was like, okay, what's next? And really, the Big 12 did react pretty quickly. But then on top of that, when USC and UCLA, Craig, both left, there was the initial, oh my God, what's next? Who else is the Big 10 going to add? There were thoughts, Oregon, Washington. Obviously, that has not happened. The ACC was going to fall apart. Who else was the SEC one? How are they going to counter? What happens to the Big 12? And yet nothing's happened other than USC and UCLA. Now, that doesn't mean that something won't happen. But I get a sense, and here's a quote from the North Carolina chancellor. This is a quote in an article. We're going to have Michael Coe from WCHL. He's a sports reporter. He also does work for chapelborough.com. Here's a quote from the chancellor of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. I'm optimistic we're going to get a better contract. I think ESPN recognizes the importance of a strong ACC, which it really is. It's an incredibly strong conference. One thing that I'm proud of as a chancellor of UNC Chapel Hill is the ACC is well known in excellence in academics and in athletics. I think we've proven that, and I think this is a right fit for Carolina. And, of course, the rest of the story. Michael Coe will join us at 4 o'clock. Guskowitz is the chancellor of North Carolina Chapel Hill. Craig, I don't think a president, even if he was doing a pep talk, would probably throw that out there with at least some reason other than perhaps he's trying to get somebody else to react. But I got a feeling that had to be almost cleared before he said it.
I understand what you're saying, that he would not say anything if there wasn't something, I guess, strong backing that. But what angle are you coming in from? That he's got some insight that they're going to get a redone deal and save the ACC? I don't
think that he would bring that up if he didn't think there was something at least that is on the horizon with the ACC and ESPN. Now, why would ESPN do it? There's no reason.
Exactly.
Other than that they want to protect who is in the ACC if, in fact, this super conference, mega conference, whatever people may think, is not really going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, people can read into that a couple of different ways. I may be more pessimistic, than most, so I read that and I don't necessarily go, oh, he's got a little trick up his sleeve that he knows about, that the ACC is going to get a new deal. I was kind of looking in that quote actually for something to chew on about, maybe the word soon or in the near future, but there was no reference to that. So I don't know. I don't know how to read that. Like, I know what you're saying, though. I mean, he wouldn't bring up a contract if there probably wasn't some discussions going on. But like you also said, what reason would the ESPN have right now to try and redo a deal that's very favorable for them? They've got them locked down until 2036. And, with ESPN, I would think that if they were trying to do anything, it would be to strengthen the SEC somehow or another. But, hey, if the ACC can get a new deal or a reworked deal, I guess it would be a reworked deal, that would be great. But I would just need a little bit more of a hint on what he's actually referring to there, because that could just be being optimistic and saying, yeah, in 2037, when this deal's up, I'm confident we'll have a deal done. But I know that's probably not what he's referring to. So, yeah, that's an interesting quote that I'm sure can be taken a lot of ways. I'm probably not as optimistic as you are that means something as far as the near term, but maybe it does.
Well, then, in my opinion, why bring it up? I'm optimistic we're going to get a better contract. And I think going to get a better contract, in my opinion, is not 14 years from now. But you can. It's a quote, and it's from an article today, and we'll get Michael Coe on to discuss it today at 4 o'clock. In fact, I text him and get him on the show, and I said, can you see him, Guskowitz, saying that without at least some sort of an idea, or should I say this or not? And he thought that, no, there's no way he would bring that up, most likely, without some sort of at least simmering of discussions of what might be in the future with the ACC.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I'm trying to see if there's been anything else added on to that. There hasn't been, but I mean that's again an interesting quote that people can take a lot of different ways. I guess on my end, I could see ESPN reworking that to strengthen the ACC, although they have not so much of a reason to rush into that with the contract being the length that it is. But I guess what I'm having a hard time just sort of seeing that for the first time and trying to work it through my head here on the spot is, you have an opportunity to maybe see this thing benefit you in other ways, like a Clemson, a Florida State, a Miami, all that, if they were able to get out of the ACC. I'm just curious, is ESPN really all that interested in bumping up a deal for schools like Wake Forest, and Boston College and Syracuse and some of those? Now, I know there's some markets in there or whatever, but
they're going to do that with Vanderbilt and Mississippi State.
But that's the SEC.
Yeah, I know. But all the television contracts, there's going to be more have-nots than there are haves.
Sure.
So, yeah, you're going to have to, if you're going to, with Clemson and Florida State, North Carolina, Virginia Tech, whoever else you want to discuss, Louisville, yeah, there's always going to be some that you go, well, it's for example, of the Big 12 moving forward, really, a lot of people are almost on the same level. Everyone seems to be, that's what makes, to me, that might be their strength in the end, and then some might rise to that elite level or keep it that way and sustain it.
I'll tell you what, we're talking about ESPN. This is the same network that tried to just casually in the dark of night, work behind the scenes to get Oklahoma and Texas out of the conference. Did they not?
Yeah, they did.
To go and strengthen the SEC.
Yeah, they did.
They did do that, and we know that they did that, even though they did denials and whatever, but it's pretty clear that they were involved to a large extent with that. And we've heard them and Fox basically throughout this process. So, I'm just saying from my more negative opinion of ESPN, I would just be shocked if they were like, you know what, ACC, yeah, we're going to come in and rework this deal for you, and everybody's going to stay pat for the next 20 years, and it's all just going to remain the same, and nothing changes except for we give you a better deal and more money. I have a hard time seeing that, even if it is their product, because I just look at them more negatively than that, and I would think that ultimately they'd probably want to do something a little more nefarious, but I'm probably being far too negative, and I admit that.
You might be, and that's really, I mean, you're being who you are as far as your opinion on
I just don't
this.
trust ESPN.
Well, I don't either, but I also think no matter how greedy they are, no matter how behind the scenes they are, no matter what they have done with other contracts or worked things out that blew everyone out of the water, I also wonder if no matter what, and again, Disney, ESPN, whatever, how often do they do something and then all of a sudden the blowback, and this is not just the Blue Bloods being happy, because not even all the Blue Bloods. Nick Saban was on with Greg McElroy, the former Alabama quarterback who's with ESPN. He was asked about realignment, and Nick Saban made it clear. He goes, one of the things about college football that we always liked as far as from a competitive nature, everybody has 85 scholarships. I know there's been the rumor that if they go to these super conferences, they might have 105. Everybody has been on par. For the most part, the money's been distributed equally, even though conferences, some make more than others. But he was talking about, and it's the same example I've used before, about the NFL. The NFL would love for every single team, although they now 17 teams, back when there were 16 games, that everybody go 8-8 in the last games of the year, all decided every single playoff. That's not going to happen. They would love for that to happen. In college football, that's not going to happen.
I think that if they try to rework the deal, it's just to maybe in the meantime pay them more money, but ultimately get out sooner than 2036. So I think I fully believe if they were to do that, there is some ulterior. I mean, clearly there's an ulterior motive, because why else would they do it? Out of the kindness of their corporate hearts? Absolutely not. So if there is some truth to that, and obviously the North Carolina guy would know a lot more than I did, then to me there's a long play there where that somehow that grant of rights is up before 2036. That's what I would just guess, because there's got to be something more to it than just, you know what, ACC's got a raw deal. We got a great deal a few years ago when we signed them up. Let's redo that to be more favorable to them.
They won't do it just to help the ACC.
That's what I'm saying.
They will do it if it also does something in that allows them to do what they want to do.
That's what I just said.
There's no way the chancellor of North Carolina, to me, would throw that out there just as a whim.
Right, but that's what I just said, is that then the 2036 thing, it's going to end sooner than that. That's what I just, if they're going to rework it, then I would imagine they're reworking it, and it's going to be a lot sooner than 2036 when that grant of rights is up. So that benefits them, because then ultimately, maybe in a shorter amount of time, rather than waiting for 12 years,
they have to wait 6 or 8.
They wait 6, and then all of a sudden they can go grab Miami and Florida State and Clemson and whoever else they want to, and go spread them how they see fit. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, that's a great point. That's a very good point.
So ultimately,
to look at it that way.
Again, it's another coup for them if they were to do that, because otherwise, why do that? I mean, why? You have every position of power. The grant of rights in the ACC is all that's stopping all hell from breaking loose right now. If it was the grant of rights was coming up the same time as Oklahoma and Texas, or the same time as, the others that have been involved, USC and UCLA, others in the Pac-12 that have been mentioned, if the ACC was a 2024 contract situation like the Pac-12 or the Big 12, like in that vicinity, then I don't think they'd be reworking deals right now. Why, right? Because they'd have a new deal coming up. So with it being 12 years out, I think that must mean that, yeah, there's got to be some caveat to that. And I would guess, with no insider info, that would mean maybe shortening it so you ultimately get what you want a little bit sooner. But that's just the pessimist in me.
I have said this before, and I guess more yesterday than before. You wonder, though, even with what Disney and also Fox, the power they have, and even though there are some of the larger blue bloods that are like laughing all the way to the bank, stepping on whoever they can, and that's fine. It's part of America. You wonder, though, that if, in fact, there has been behind the scenes a little blowback. And I mean by that is ESPN and Fox, it's not like if a few people call them. But you wonder if in some cases, some of the powers that be in college football outside of Greg Sankey saying they want to stay at 16, whether he means it or not, is, to me, that's a calming factor. Nobody has left the Pac-12 yet. That's a calming factor. The Big Ten has not added anybody other than what they did, even though that sparked another forest fire. That's a calming factor. And the ACC still hasn't had anybody try to challenge their grant of rights, and the Big 12 is who they are. I just wonder if it was so much of an explosion that we were waiting for the next one, and that maybe there's a calming period, or maybe behind the scenes people are going, hey, can we slow this down for just a second without it being that stupid alliance which slowed down college football's national championship expansion?
Yeah, I mean, but the alliance served its purpose, did it not?
Yes, it did.
I mean, it did. And, I saw a couple of comments to that effect yesterday. It's goofy. It was dumb in the long run, but ultimately if it nixed the playoff, pathway and slowed that train down, then that it served its goal, if that was, in fact, its ultimate goal. So, that was a good point that I saw made by a couple of different people just sort of on the peripheral of all this expansion talk. Was that, and that is true. So, obviously it's the alliance has worked out for Kevin Warren in the Big Ten. Remains to be seen on the ACC so much how it's going to work out in the long run. And the Pac, we know, is, they're down to, hey, SMU, you want to come on over? That's, the big, not rumor, but that's the big play I keep saying on the Pac-12 media side is, who could they expand with and who could they take? And SMU's like the hot name now because they're the Texas team. I don't think folks realize how little of the DFW market that really is, but it's a Texas team. And as we know with the Big 12 and their expansion talks, you pointed out and we're talked about, the second wave, and SMU was one that was more about if the Big 12 were to go that direction, do they really need a Dallas school? No. Do they need another Texas school? No. And I thought it was a dumb idea, but as it was explained to you, it's their potential that people would maybe be excited by.
If SMU has the base to take advantage of it.
Right, yeah, and they don't have a very big base. They don't. So that's in the eye of the Pac-12 and what they think they can do with them, and that'll be interesting to follow. But, yeah, I think it's slowed down for this week and in comparison to the rush that we felt with USC and UCLA. But at any moment, a Notre Dame could say, you know what, we are going to join a conference, and then all hell breaks loose again. So it's by no means completely settled, although it does sort of feel like it's calming a little, but that might just be the calm before the storm.
One of the notes as well is that the ACC, despite what we may think of it at times, they did have 10 teams get in a bowl game last year. That's a big chunk. So they did have teams that were successful. Now, again, it comes down, yes, we understand eyeballs or whatever, but I do wonder, that's just me. This is my opinion that perhaps there's a calming period. Hell, we could be tomorrow at Big 12 Media Days and they announce that they're going to add 4 teams or 2 teams or 3 teams or whatever. Now, a couple of other notes facilities-wise. Here is Texas Tech football. And we will have Carlos Silva from the Lubbock Avalanche Journal joining us at 3:45 today. The future of Texas Tech football. They are going to have renovations, expansion. They have a very nice, solid, their fan base is as rabid maybe as anybody that's left after Texas and Oklahoma leave. Yeah, there's going to be times if they're struggling where, there's some empty seats. But that's almost a cult-like fan figure and a fan base, and that's in a complimentary way. These are some pictures. The future of Texas Tech football. We will hear from Joey McGuire this week at Big 12 Media Days and Carlos Silva on this, and there are just some of the pictures. Also, Texas A&M put this up yesterday. A&M and Levy plan to bring 3 unique food and beverage stores equipped with Amazon's Just Walk Out technology at Kyle Field starting this fall. The venue will be first collegiate sports venue to feature Amazon's Just Walk Out technology. There's money involved there. These are the things they're thinking outside the box. And I also saw that UCF yesterday entered into a 13-year multimedia rights agreement worth $125 million in guaranteed rights with Playfly. According to the Board of Trustees, that was released. Terry, that we had their AD on just about 3 or 4 weeks ago. So that's 13 years, $125 million. I'm not exactly sure, but my math says that's just under $10 million per year as people find additional revenue that they want moving forward. And UCF probably, I don't know if they do that if they weren't being a part of a Power 5. They've been trying to do some work despite the fact they're in the group of 5, but you wonder if that doesn't help by being a part of a conference as well. So things are moving forward no matter what the future may hold of college football. Tim Fitzgerald will join us from GoPowerCat.com. He's a part of the contingent that will be at Big 12 Media Days, and he covers Kansas State just to kind of get a feel from a school within the Big 12. We've looked at a lot of schools outside the Big 12. Today we have Tim Fitzgerald and Carlos Silva on to kind of give us an idea of what's going on with them. All right. We will have today at 5:15 the Open Championship in St. Andrews. We'll have Rob Bolton. We'll have our British Open teams, our Open Championship lottery. We'll do that today at 5:15, and plus John McClain will join us from the Houston Chronicle formerly of the Houston Chronicle, Hall of Fame columnist on many things NFL and on Sikkim 365 Radio. Let's see here. One of the other notes that Nick Saban was mentioning, and I know that when he says this, Alabama's rolling, right? They're rolling no matter what. And he was discussing this kind of parity. And there's two things. One thing he said, but it also counters what the problem is in college football. College football's attendance is dropping. We mentioned that we had that graphic up earlier, or maybe last week, that college football's attendance is dropping. So is college basketball. Because there are, well, I don't know, people are just jointed. I don't know what it is. Or maybe they don't have the money coming off of COVID and the way the economy is has a lot to do with it.
Man, I think college athletics expects its fans to have money just no matter what, because they're constantly with their hands out, no matter what university you're talking about. Yep. I mean, here we are. It's a pandemic that we're still in, out. I mean, depends on who you ask, quite frankly, but it's obviously had its effect for going on a couple of years now. The economy is certainly not the best that it's been. I mean, it's kind of wild out there, and yet you've got Texas Tech announcing, $200 million facilities, and are they going to stop asking anytime soon? No, they're going to turn around and be like, now we need diamond-encrusted toilets for this thing. That'll get us the 5 stars, and there'll be something else after that, and some TVs, so it's never ending.
But one of the other things that Saban was talking about is the attendance in games is dropping, and there's many reasons. Craig just kind of reinforced that, but some of it is the fact that when you are getting teams to try to get to bowl games, you have to win 6 games. And I remember back early on in the Art Briles years when they started to try to get to a bowl game for the first time in 16 or 17 years, they were playing a very bad non-conference schedule. But to get to 6 wins, they had to. They were terrible, and they were trying to get at least better. Now, of course, they've increased that and done that better, and they get to 6 wins, you would think, just by being who they are, like a lot of other teams as well. But you have to get those teams to bowl games. That's what you want by getting 6 wins, so you're going to have a lot of blowout games. You wonder if that doesn't hurt. If, in fact, there are super conferences or whatever the future holds, won't those games become much more competitive and less blowouts if you have less teams playing each other and all of them are a part of maybe 2 or 3 conferences with some of the elite teams? Yeah, you're going to still have Vanderbilt, Mississippi State, whoever struggles. But won't that increase the better games?
Yeah, I suppose so. But, we don't know what that's going to look like, and that's assuming that there's some super conference. And I know that there technically is 2 super conferences, but I'm not talking about just in name. I'm talking about legitimately it's the AFC, NFC thing that people keep throwing out there and nobody else seemingly exists. That idea, then yeah, it would happen there. But in the real world where all these other teams still do exist and it's not about just 2 conferences, they're going to play non-conference games. I don't see how they're not going to. I mean, if they decided not to, then just play all conference games. I mean, I can't imagine that would be the best idea for everybody involved. So, yeah, I mean, I that could go to the wayside somewhat, but I still think it's going to exist in some form. I actually think while you're talking, people talk about why aren't people going to games as much and why are they not staying? I think it's because the TV products it's easier to digest on your couch rather than at home because, man, there is nothing more infuriating than sitting in a game, being in the mood, and then 5-minute commercial break. And you get 2 minutes of action, and then, boom, 5-minute commercial break. And you get 3.5 minutes of action, and then 5-minute commercial break. And in the action pieces, we've got referee reviews. We've got stopping the clock on every first down. We've got, and it's 4 hours. It's 4 hours to commit to a game. And I know right now, I don't want to go sit out in this for 4 hours, and a month from now it's going to be just like this, but you're asking people to pay money during a time where money is at a premium for a lot of people, and you're asking them to go sit there and you want them to go out there and have fun, but I don't think it's so much about you don't want to see Baylor blow out Wofford. I think people love blowouts. I think if you know your team's going to blow somebody out, then you might still leave at halftime. But, yeah, you're going to go check that out just to see everybody ball for a couple quarters because they're going to kick this team's teeth in, and you know that. I don't think it's the blowouts that lead people at home. I think it's the product sometimes that you get and in person because there's a lot of sitting around during college football games right now if you think about it.
Yeah, and we're lucky enough to be in the press box. We're covered up and have other things to do.
Every TV timeout, every review, every stoppage of the clock. I mean, I think just for me personally, that hinders the product as much as anything. And that's, to me, maybe as much of I'd rather sit at home for 4 hours in the comforts rather than sit in this hot 105-degree stadium, and half the time I'm just sitting here waiting for commercial breaks to end.
And again, if you're in your own comfort during a commercial break, you can go and get yourself a beer, go to the bathroom, go get yourself something to eat. All right, Tim Fitzgerald will start us off today with GoPowerCat.com. Then Carlos Silva from Texas covers Texas Tech on their stadium being renovated. Tomorrow, we will be at Big 12 Media Days on Wednesday and Thursday. All of us will be there. Emery, Jack, Garrett will be there as well. They're behind the scenes today. Can't wait to get up there. Brian, Colt, I think now that Colt, his wife Sarah's had the baby, might be free to jump up there for a day or two. Grayson, nope, okay. Well, Grayson among others as well. All right, when we come back, Tim Fitzgerald, GoPowerCat.com, Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. All right, the city of Woodway, he wrapped up that craft beer tasting and the live concert. It went incredibly well. And now, as you look ahead, football season around the corner, some of you might be, and you maybe have already bought certain tickets to various Baylor games. Or maybe you're still coming into town because it's still somewhat early in the summer. It's July, where you want to come in and go see the Silos, Magnolia. And if that's the case and you're looking for a hotel and you can't find one that's in Waco, right down just attached to Waco, the southern part of town is the city of Woodway. And the city of Woodway has 7 of their own hotels. And so if you want, and it's like a 10, 12, 15-minute drive at the most to get downtown or to Baylor at McClain Stadium. So as you plan ahead and you want somewhere to stay, whether coming in for vacation or coming in for the Silos or coming in for a Baylor football game, the city of Woodway has the hotels to get for you to be able to stay how many days or nights you want at discoverwoodway.com. Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. State Fair tornado fries, nachos, and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
At Allen Samuels in Waco, the new 2022 Impressive Wagoneer Series 2 and 3 have 2.9% for 72 months, plus $4,500 competitive bonus cash going on now. That's right, and $4,500 bonus cash. This incentive on the new 2022 Wagoneers for a limited time only at Allen Samuels in Waco. First responders get $500 extra cash. Come shop the new car and truck inventory today at Allen Samuels Waco.
Come by, let's be friends.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Let
Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm, welcome home.
You know what would make this moment better? Pizza. Dough made from scratch and an Italian family sauce recipe pizza. 3 fresh signature cheeses making a melty blanket of perfection pizza. Like loads of premium toppings like crispy Old World pepperoni, savory Italian sausage, and fresh sliced veggies pizza. That's Marco's Pizza. Visit marcos.com and make any moment better. And with 4 locations in Waco, Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
Tim Fitzgerald on Twitter at Life of Fitz, part of GoPowerCat.com, covers K-State with us on Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Both David and Craig Smoak here today. Tim on his way into Dallas and Fort Worth, Arlington for the Big 12 Media Days. Tim, thanks for your time. Hope you've been doing well. What do you expect to hear from Brett Yormark tomorrow?
I mean, hopefully he's named me assistant commissioner for fun, but I don't think I'm going to hear that. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I almost wonder if there isn't something coming, some kind of announcement, but who knows? I mean, maybe they were hoping for something and it didn't pan out with the Pac-12. We'll see, but I'm just anxious to kind of get, for lack of a better way to say it, the vibe off of him, see what he's about.
I'm going with Notre Dame joining the Big 12, Tim. How about that?
I like it. I like it a lot. I mean, there's a lot of natural rivalries here. A lot of schools they typically play. Now, look, at some point Notre Dame's got to do something, don't they? I mean, and I think that's what everyone's waiting on at this point. And I think Notre Dame might be the ACC's last great hope to be saved.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a hot topic, no doubt about it. And it's going to be very interesting to see how that plays out. And that plays, I guess, into, the Big 12 and expansion. I mean, here we are again, Texas and Oklahoma for perhaps the last time. I don't think anybody really truly knows when their last media days will be, other than if it keeps running for a couple more years. But just your thoughts on sort of where the conference sits now. Going to be introducing the new teams next year, so kind of the status quo, but seems like a very interesting year for the league. K-State certainly seems like a team that's on the upswing, got the new commissioner. Just your thoughts on the Big 12 entering 2022?
Well, 2022 is just going to be this weird. I feel like it's going to be a farewell tour, even if it's not. I think everyone would hope that it breaks clean next year, but guys, I got to admit something. I'm more excited about the future Big 12, the new 12, than I have been about this conference in a long time. And it just feels like there's a lot of equity, a lot of shared vision within this conference. Maybe that's just because we're rid of Texas. And Texas has locked that hot girlfriend that is unmanageable, that you just can't it's hard to break up, but once you do, you're like, hey, I feel better about myself now. That's kind of the way I feel about getting rid of Texas. Oklahoma, I'm going to miss a little bit because that goes back to the Big 8 days for me. But I feel like the schools now, in fact, I got a daily delivery about this up at our video at Go Power Cat. You know, that the backbone of this conference are ag schools. And, you know, or if you're not an ag school, at least you have a feeling of an understanding of the agricultural experience. And now they've brought in, you know, more converted commuter schools that also have played, you know, little brother to larger institutions for a lot of years and are growing out of that shadow just like a lot of these Big 12 schools are. I think there's going to be a real feeling of community, even though this is going to be somewhat of a diverse conference, certainly in geography. I'm really excited about the future of Big 12.
You know, and to me, and Mack Rose has told us this, Tim, and we've had Gene Taylor on, we've had other ADs around the conference on as well. They feel like now when they walk in the room, everybody's at the same eye. Everyone's at like, you know, like look at each other straight in the eye. And we get it. There's other schools and programs that can be that way. And the way things are set up, they can. But it does seem like that's why one of the things when all this went down with US and UCLA, there was still some simmering about, okay, what's going to happen? But the Big 12, to me, didn't blink. Now, I don't know what they're going to do in the future, but to me, I feel like they all are all in this as one. Even if maybe it's hard to sometimes trust everybody.
Yeah, and, you know, we got to be realistic here. If Oklahoma State gets an SEC offer, I don't think anyone in the conference is going to expect them to stay. I mean, that's just going to be the reality of college athletics going forward. If the Big Ten and SEC are going to be at their own level, it's going to be almost impossible to say no to that. But I also think it's going to take going beyond 20 schools in your conference to get to any of us in the Big 12. That's a simple reality. They're going to turn their attention to the ACC, and if that's not going to happen, I think they're just going to sit at 16 for a while. But I think this group will kind of stick together. And I think if, you know, they get some good history here in the next year or two, showing that they can put up decent numbers in football, they'll get a pretty good TV contract too, and maybe even comparable or above what they're getting right now, which is absolutely not the talking points we heard 1 year ago when those two schools left the Big 12.
So, Tim, K-State coming off an 8-5 year. Chris Kleiman steadily building this thing. Had the big win over LSU to close things out. Brings Adrian Martinez in. I know there's been some other changes, but what's just sort of the feeling right now as the ball gets ready to kick off here in a few weeks surrounding, you know, where Kleiman is with this program at this juncture?
Now, it's funny how things work out. If you look back at K-State's last regular season game last year, they just stunk it up at Texas, lost the game that was so winnable, and fans were really upset about it. But you had a change at offensive coordinator that grew out of that. And Colin Klein, the former quarterback, went to the bowl game and called the plays and looked amazing. The offense clicked. He got the job full-time. Now his recruiting ability has really set in, and they're having a great 23 class. There's a lot of optimism, a lot of forward momentum right now coming out of that win over LSU into this season. And the fact that K-State had 6 players, first team All Big 12, the most in the conference, really says something about where Chris Kleiman has kind of quietly been recruiting. That he's developed some players like Danny D.K. Uzama, who nobody really knew about. I mean, he came to K-State just totally unheralded and put on about 40 pounds, and now is a beast at defensive end. And it's a fun team to watch, and I think it'll be even more fun with Colin Klein as offensive coordinator, because I think we're going to see more diverse play calling. It'll be fun.
With Kleiman, is he more the Bill Snyder, I guess, philosophy and the way they play the game compared to what K-State's done in between?
Yeah. You know, it's weird. There's some real similarities and some real differences from each other. Their personal styles are much different. Chris is, you know, really a kind of an outgoing, social guy. Coach Snyder does stuff, but that's really not his preference. Kleiman's a defensive guy. Snyder's an offensive guy. But the way they want to manage the game is similar. Maybe Chris Kleiman doesn't want to go as slow as Bill Snyder did, but he does want to control the clock. You know, they want to walk down the pace if they get a nice lead on someone. But one of the emphases with Colin Klein moving into offensive coordinator is kind of pick up the pace in general on offense. But you're going to see a real meld here with Colin Klein coming out of that Snyder program and his philosophies on offense. How much they line up with Bill Snyder will be interesting to watch.
How much does Adrian Martinez, enhance expectations, or how much does he kind of create some excitement? I know he could be frustrating at times for Nebraska fans, but the talent was evident. What has he kind of brought spark-wise to Manhattan?
Well, the question sums it up. He's really talented. You can't question his talent, and you can't question the fact that he was really frustrating for Nebraska.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of uncertainty with him, and you come into the season, and I think we're going to find out if it was him or Nebraska. It was one of the two. Were they asking him to do things that didn't fit him or asking him to do too much? Or was it just Adrian Martinez is flawed in his decision-making and can't quite put the ball in the right place at the right time? So I think we'll find out pretty quickly, and I think K-State feels really positive about him. He is a great leader. There's no doubt about that. And they brought him in for a reason. They feel like with Colin Klein calling the plays and understanding how to use a good running quarterback that can also throw the ball, because that's what he was, I think they feel optimistic. They're going to cut down on his turnovers and put him in a more positive position. And let's be honest, having Deuce Vaughn at your side in the backfield got to help and take a little pressure.
Well, that was my last question for you, Tim, and look forward to seeing you tomorrow and this week at Big 12 Media Days in Arlington. Bijan Robinson's the Offensive Player of the Year. That's not a surprise. He's a dynamic player. We know last year at the end he was beaten up a little bit and they weren't very good, and so they kind of shut him down. He is fantastic and a Heisman Trophy candidate. Why isn't Deuce Vaughn?
Well, I think it comes down to just the measurements. I mean, Bijan's the prototypical running back, and he's special. There's no doubt about that. But, he's a Lamborghini, and Deuce is the Jeep. It's going to take you places where you didn't think you could go. And it's kind of fun to watch Deuce play. He's very versatile. He's very good in the passing game also. He's been the leading receiver for K-State many games. So, Deuce is really good, and we expect this is probably his last season, even though he's a junior, because, what more will he have to prove? Unless he's planning on growing 6 inches the next year, I think he is kind of a finished product after this season.
Tim, I know that most people, if you stop and do some shows like this one while you're at Media Days, a lot will ask about Martinez and obviously Deuce Vaughn and Chris Kleiman. But for somebody that's embedded, we know it's a little bit different when you're on the ground level, just like we'd probably ask Dave Aranda some different questions for most people. What is the thing you're most looking to learn or ask when it comes to Chris Kleiman in this football program when K-State gets their turn in Arlington?
Well, I'm curious if they even care about the fact that they had the most players in the Big 12 and that selection, first-team selections, and that contrasted with being picked fifth. I don't know that that's ever happened before, that a school had that many selections and then was picked for middle of the pack. I find that interesting. But he's so guarded right now with what he wants to say about the offensive side of the football. That's where my questions are, and that is where he's become Bill Snyder Jr. He is not showing his hand one bit, and we expect some differences in this offense with Colin Klein now that he's had a full off season to put things in. But I think the offense will be really enjoyable brand of football for college football fans to watch.
Where would you put them? Are you buying some of the Big 12 championship, appearance hype? There are some people that feel like they've got the talent to find themselves in that game. Where are you with expectations?
Well, look, we've been told it's all about the Jimmies and Joes for a long time. And the Jimmies and Joes this season, at least, are in Waco, Stillwater, and Manhattan. It's hard to believe. It's weird to believe, but I would have picked those three as my top three, probably in that order, with K-State third. And threw Oklahoma in there. Look, I'm a big believer in Brent Venables. I think he's a whale of a coach, but I'm not sure he's cut out to be a head coach. And this is going to be a really interesting situation for me to watch.
Hey, Tim, I hope you don't mind me bringing this up. You had put up on Twitter that you have personally had to deal with some health issues at times and how you've beaten the clock. My older brother has been battling prostate cancer, and it's been really bad. Started chemo 3 or 4 weeks ago. And I wanted you to share your story to give people some hope, because I saw that and it kind of took my breath away, and shared that with my oldest brother, who's doing well, but still it's a constant battle.
first, give him my number if he wants to reach out. And I do a lot of that. I talk to a lot of folks. I just had a friend, former Kansas State quarterback Matt Miller, who played in 1995, was diagnosed before he was 50 and dead at 49 from prostate cancer, which is really troubling in itself because they don't even want to test you until you're 50. And I was diagnosed at 53, turned out to be stage 4, which is not a good position to be in. And luckily they handled mine with intense radiation that came with a lot of wonderful side benefits. No superpowers, but a lot of things that don't work right anymore. And, it is what it is. You just take the battle in front of you. It's kind of like a football schedule. You might have a rival all 3 weeks down the road, but you better stay focused on what you got to accomplish on that day. And you're going to have bad days. You're going to have good days. But you just kind of string them together as best you can. And you fight and you pray and you do everything. You ask for all the positive energy you can summon from all your friends and family.
Tim, thank you for that, man. Appreciate you. Appreciate you a lot. We'll see you tomorrow. Can't wait to give you a hug.
Okay, boys.
All right, Tim Fitzgerald, GoPowerCat.com, covers Kansas State. And then Carlos Silva comes up in a moment, Texas Tech, announcing that the renovation and addition and all that when it comes to their football stadium. He'll join us at 3:45. Sick'em, 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, got a lot of great deals going on now over at Richard Carr. They are the people you can count on, and I've counted on them a couple of times in the last year when my car has had some dings and some dents and had some traffic. When I was in traffic a few months back, had sort of construction, something flew up, knocked a little side panel loose, big crack in it. It was affecting my windshield. Just had to get that fixed over at Richard Carr a couple of weeks ago. But since I've had my car back, I mean, it is brand new. It is great, and it is certainly fixed. And that was the customer service I was treated to at Richard Carr. Got it back quickly for me at a good price, and just I got nothing but rave reviews. So if you're looking for great customer service, they are the people that you can count on. But if you're looking for cars and trucks to buy and to get in as soon as possible, they've got those for you as well. Don't wait any longer. Cars and trucks are arriving weekly at Richard Carr, so get your name on their inbound vehicle list to reserve a brand new Buick, GMC, or Cadillac before anyone else. If you're looking to buy new, get on that inbound vehicle list either by calling the dealership or swinging by the dealership, and they will get you signed up and in line, so to speak, for that new Buick, GMC, or Cadillac that you're looking for. But if you need a car today, you're looking to buy used, they've got dozens of quality pre-owned cars and trucks. All of them go through a 172-point inspection, so you can drive them with the all-important peace of mind, and they will pay top dollar on your trade. With dozens of lending options, they say yes to loans when others say no. So go online or come by the dealership to check out the inventory today. Trust the good local people you can count on. 23 years in Central Texas. Richard Carr, run by proud Wacoans, proud Baylor Bears. Log on to richardcarr.com today. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
It's plain and simple. Waco Custom Marketplace is the one-stop shop for what you need for tailgating, from charcoal, cold beer, and wine. And, of course, customize your order with brisket, tri-tip, sausage, wings, smoked pork tenderloin, country-style or pork spare ribs, marinated beef and chicken fajita meat, ground beef and chili, meat, hot dogs, and burgers, buns, seasoning, sauces, chips. There's fresh baked bread and kolaches every day, breakfast sausage links. And you can also customize your favorite favorite cut of steaks from Select, Choice, or Prime, bacon wrap fillets, ribeyes, New York strip, sirloin, T-bone, and porterhouse. Full-service butcher shop includes pork, poultry, beef, chicken, and seafood, serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. Your one-stop shop for beef, pork, poultry, and seafood needs. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year, whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube.
We go this 3 o'clock hour. Carlos Silva at Lubbock Avalanche Journal. He has been with us many different times discussing also Texas Tech men's basketball, the great run they made. But he joins us again as Big 12 Media Days. Carlos on his way into Arlington, as Tim Fitzgerald was as well. So let's start with this $200 million football facilities upgrade. And, Carlos, what that has given a kind of a jolt again to the football program.
Absolutely. Appreciate y'all having me on. But I think the biggest thing is the timing is perfect for Texas Tech in terms of all the conference realignment. Certainly want to position yourself in a great spot. And I think when you're, bringing up the fact that you're investing $200 million into your football facilities, that's certainly a huge, ace up your sleeve to tell a lot of other conferences, or just, try and get yourself and position yourself in a good spot in the Big 12 or whatever that could be in the coming months and years.
Well, Carlos, you say whatever that could be. Right now it is on track to be the new Big 12, but when realignment stuff sparks up like it has now for the past couple years, I see my fair share of every fan base's fans that says, hey, we should go here, we should go there. There's not a lot of loyalty, that's for sure. If you were to poll the average Tech fan, what are their thoughts on, life in the new Big 12 moving forward versus what their thoughts are on what other options could potentially ever be?
Well, in terms of the options, the first and second obviously would be the SEC Big Ten, but certainly those probably aren't viable options at the moment. But right now, in terms of the new Big 12, if you're Texas Tech, you're trying to see all the parity, you see it all, and you're thinking, well, we could be the top program in this new Big 12 conference, along with some others that are certainly looking to do the same. And I think when you do that, and again, going back to the first question y'all had, a $200 million investment into your football team, if things are going very well for them, certainly things are looking up for Texas Tech football and maybe the rest of their athletic programs.
So how would you compare the anticipation of the Joey McGuire era, which is, of course, started back in even during the season, but really started after that when the season ended? How would you compare the hype for him compared to maybe anything else recently?
I think the best thing you can compare it to is when Cliff Kingsbury was taken away from College Station. He came back as an alum, and certainly the person that was thought to revive this program once again. It's a guy that everyone knew. He obviously brought a lot of success during his tenure at Texas Tech. He was a Mike Leach guy, so everyone just felt really good about him. And I think that's certainly something that Joey McGuire is starting to get. And like you guys said, when the season ended, that was beating Mike Leach with his Mississippi State team. And I think right now the momentum is very good for the Texas Tech football team in terms of, like you said, you have a new football coach where there are a lot of people that were clamoring for him with his Hire McGuire hashtag initially when he was a potential candidate for that job. And once he got hired, you could definitely tell the fan base was reinvigorated by not only his energy, but just the fact that he had so many connections to so many high school football coaches in the state.
Texas Tech picked 9th in the media poll, Carlos, just above Kansas as far as the current 10 goes. I understand there's the trepidation with, having a first-year head coach. It's also what the other schools have coming back as well. But do you see them as the 9th team coming up this season? Do you have higher or perhaps even, more modest expectations?
I could see them somewhere in the 6 to 7, maybe even 5th range right now. But again, it all depends on how the other teams are doing. I think when you look at these polls, you look at what happened last year, and you look at Oklahoma. They're introducing a new head football coach, and many of the new assistants on the offensive and defensive side. You look at some of these other teams, and I think there's a lot of parity that's going to happen that I think is not really accounted for in those pre-conference polls, if you will. And I think for Texas Tech, if you're able to steal a couple wins, you could go from a 5, maybe even 4 that I've seen projected to a 6 to 7 win team again, just based on if you get a couple of steals at home and maybe if you're able to win a couple road games. But certainly that non-conference schedule is not doing them any favors. But if they're able to get through that, you start Big 12 conference with Texas at home, and certainly the race is on after that.
Carlos, how would you describe Texas Tech's fan base?
Up and down right now. Certainly they're up with the new coach first year. Fired up after, again, I cannot understate how big of a win it was for Texas Tech to beat Mike Leach after all the, just off the field shenanigans that he was providing during that whole bowl game, into the bowl game, and kind of after, the loss as well. So I think that was, in effect, if you want to look at it, I know fans kind of characterize it as just kind of getting a monkey off their back, that Mike Leach monkey. You finally beat him, and then all of a sudden, you have a clean slate, so to speak, a new coach, reinvigoration of the fan base. And not only that, but then you've got, again, I hate to continue to be like a broken record, but that $200 million reinvestment into the football program, that cannot be understated with the way that Texas Tech is looking to position itself in either the new Big 12 or a potential new conference based on the way conference realignment is going.
So I know that, I guess if you ask anybody, they're going to have different expectations, and Joey McGuire is going to have his own set of expectations. But with the excitement level, also with the understanding of this is a process and this is going to build, what do you think the average Texas Tech fan or media person that covers the team, what is the, I guess, sort of baseline expectation for year one with Joey McGuire?
I would say just wait and see. I think the one thing that Joey has that Matt Wells did not have is the fact that the fan base is embracing him.
Yeah.
The fact that he has momentum going into him. The fact that there's investment. Once again, I know broken record, but the fact that you're already seeing the investment going into the program, I think there's a huge boatload of optimism, at least from a fan base, the athletics department. And not only that, but you just figure if you're able to get football going, you've already got men's basketball going. The Lady Raiders program is looking on the up and up. You're trying to get softball started with a new coach and Craig Snyder. And then, of course, Tech baseball, yeah, they didn't have the season that they wanted to, but that's a team that's already built up expectations where if they're not in the CWS, you're a little bit surprised. And obviously everyone's surprised that they didn't make it this year.
Carlos, it's good to have you on. It means that we're right around the corner tomorrow. We'll see you at Big 12 Media Days, of course, for a couple of days as they try to unravel. I asked Tim Fitzgerald this as he was on his way down from Manhattan, Kansas. Do you expect to hear anything other than maybe ideas from Brett Yormark tomorrow when he's introduced at 8:30?
I mean, based on what I've heard and what I've read about him, he's a very, very smart person who likes to prepare what he's about to think. So I'm very interested to see what he does share, because certainly there's going to be a lot of questions that are going to be asked of him. I'm sure the national media is going to be there because again, he's a new commissioner coming in at a very, very interesting time, I guess is the best way I can describe it, because when you look at it, I mean, there's give and take literally and figuratively with the conference realignment as you kind of look at it going along. And not only that, but then there's certainly opportunities to expand, as Kirby Hocutt's mentioned before and he's mentioned before. So I think when you look at all those factors, I think there's a lot that can be asked of him. And based on his answers, I think he's going to be very, very careful with his words, because I'm sure there's a lot of moving pieces, at least with the Big 12 and maybe even some of the other conferences right now that everyone's been mentioning on the airwaves, pardon me.
One note about the Big 12. Texas and OU, whether they're around for another year or two, whatever happens with that, do you get, even though if someone, Craig mentioned this, if Oklahoma State got a call, whoever got a call, do you get the impression that the ones who survived, again, the 8, along with the incoming 4, are about as close and together as they can possibly be?
I don't know if close and together is the right way to put it. I think right now what you're looking at is what can you do to get the most money for yourself when it comes to dividing a big pot of revenue and TV, and what is the best fit for either if you want to look at the 8 that stayed there, or can you kind of look? Because I think that's the one thing that people won't kind of throw out there is everyone's kind of trying to figure it out for themselves right now. You saw it already with UT and OU. You saw it already with UCLA and USC. But now it's a matter of, do you want to save yourself, or do you want to try and see what you can save with, kind of, like you said, combining yourself with some other teams, or like the Pac-10 right now, if you want to call it that. Are you going to try and merge with them? Or are you going to try and add some other teams? It's just that there's a lot of variables, a lot of moving pieces. And I think when you look at everything, I think the best thing you can look at is the fact that they did stay together last year. So maybe there's a little bit of a relationship there. But I think the one thing that they can all agree on is they're going to make sure that OU and Texas are there just to keep the revenue from the grant of rights. And I think that's the one thing they can all agree on.
Thank you, Carlos. Appreciate you. Good to have you on again. And we'll see you soon. Carlos Silva, Lubbock Avalanche Journal, Texas Tech. Put those pictures up again, Garrett, again of the stadium, a $200 million upgrade in many ways, and how pretty it looks, and what they're trying to do. And, of course, right now, with Joey McGuire entering what will be his first season as the head coach of Texas Tech. All right, when we come back, more to get to. We will also today, Michael O., he's the who wrote the article that I mentioned about the UNC Chancellor, Guskowitz. He'll be next to discuss the article and what he thinks about the quotes, and maybe something new for the ACC when it comes to ESPN, if at all. Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Don Shumidor and Coffee Beans in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco. I go there quite a bit. If you want to smoke cigars, that's where you should go as well. They have a 48-foot walk-in humidor and some of the best brands of cigars you could imagine. I can list 5 or 6 today, 5 or 6 on Thursday, and a bunch of others because there's so many good ones, and there are elite brands. Ashton, Macanudo, Romeo and Julieta, Artur Fuente, Cohiba, CAO, and on and on and on. On top of that, they have CBD products, including the gummies, that you can get a gummy, bite a gummy, eat a gummy, chew a gummy in the evening or right before you're ready to go to bed. And the next thing you know, you will not toss and turn. You will have a lot more of a relaxing, you're asleep. And you won't toss and turn. It helps. It hurts. It helps. I know. And you might just be one of those that's always something on your mind and you just can't go straight to sleep. Well, the gummies can help. The CBD products. Ask Carol, Ashley, and Cheyenne about it. In the Townwest Shopping Center, Don Shumidor and Coffee Beans in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Cars priced right both day and night. At Richard Car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. At Richard Car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. At Richard Car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. At Richard Car in Waco, Texas.
And Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs. Even offering financing if that's needed, everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
It was broad daylight. I stepped into a gas station for 5 minutes to grab a snack, and just like that, my car was broken into. They made out like a bandit. My laptop, my phone, everything. I called my agent to see what could be done, and he restored my faith in humanity. My claim was processed so quickly, and I was able to recover my losses.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Did you know that Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness is a partner of the city of Waco? Did you know that we are open to the public? Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers day passes to the public for only $10 a day, and we offer money-saving memberships. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes each week, including bar, yoga, boot camp, indoor cycling, and more. There are free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, elliptical machines, and much more on the spacious weight room floor. Personal training available where you can be encouraged to grow. Sauna, whirlpool, tanning bed and kids club, 17 tennis courts, 8 pickleball courts, youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons. Waco's premier experience where you can help your mind, body, and soul. Visit our website at wacotennis.com, call us at 254-753-7675, or visit us next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
And interesting fake. It's a touchdown to Ben Simmons. Just love the poise of this young quarterback.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now, here's David Smoak and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go. 4 o'clock hour has begun. Craig Smoak's off the radar in about 40 minutes or so. In the 5 o'clock hour, we're going to check in with the Open Championship at St. Andrews in Scotland. Of course, they don't play and start till Thursday, but we'll have Rob Bolton on to discuss who the picks are, and we'll have our draft that we do as well. We're now joined by Michael Coe. He is he's a columnist, writer, covers a lot of the ACC in the Carolina area with WCHL, Chapel, so ESPN. Did anyone else did that get much play in your area?
Yeah, it's actually one of the trending stories on our site. And yeah, thanks for having me on, man. Thanks a lot.
So what was the reaction? Was that something, because we were trying to say, is that because he knows something? Because otherwise I don't think he would throw it out there. And why would ESPN want to make it a more friendly contract in the first place?
Right, yeah. I think that's the big question that I had coming away from that is ESPN has a very ESPN favorable contract with the ACC right now. So I think it would take a concerted effort from all of the ACC schools, not just North Carolina, to maybe get that changed, maybe even taking them to court, which has been a possibility that I've seen floating around. But the fact that Guskowitz, the UNC chancellor, would say that he's optimistic leads me to believe that those conversations are being had right now.
Michael, what has been the reaction at Chapel Hill? North Carolina being one of those schools that's sort of in a unique position. I mean, obviously they're tied down to the ACC for the time being, but there's plenty of discussion, hence having you on about how that could change. There's thoughts that if, let's just say the grant of rights disappeared, North Carolina would be one of those darlings that could be courted by the SEC or the Big Ten. As all this is just kind of swirling, what's the thoughts right now for Tar Heels fans in Chapel Hill?
Yeah, a lot of Tar Heel fans that I have been seeing, I originally thought that a lot of them would be, sentimental about the ACC, given that UNC is one of the charter members. They're an ACC lifer pretty much. But a lot of the reaction that I've been seeing is, look, it's survival of the fittest. UNC has to do what's best for UNC, whether that's the Big Ten or the SEC or renegotiating the contract with ESPN to stay in the ACC. They've got to look out for themselves. So I was a little surprised by that, but look, UNC is a very popular brand around the country, especially with the tie-ins with Jordan. So they're going to be able to choose where they want to go. It's just a matter of when, in my opinion.
The grant of rights seems to be an albatross or just a big anchor around their neck. Is there anything positive about it?
Well, it depends on who you're asking, right? I think the positive thing about it is that the ACC did get its own network. Of course, this was well behind the launches of the Big Ten Network and the SEC Network, but it was put into place, I believe, to really give the ACC Network some staying power. And the network has been around since 2019, on the air since 2019. So I think it's good for that perspective, just getting more media out there, but not really a school-friendly deal.
What are your thoughts on just the idea that's been either reported or put out there, however you want to phrase it, but the Pac-12 alliance? We know how the initial alliance went. Some can argue that it served its purpose because there's not an expanded playoff right now, and they got that done, and so it worked in the long run. But as we've seen, there's other things going on. What are kind of the thoughts on the alliance part one and potentially, doing something with the Pac and keeping them afloat?
Right. Well, I think the original alliance, it was a lot of, we looked each other in the eye and we made a gentleman's agreement. We had a handshake, but there was nothing really in writing to really lock any of that down. And now we have seen why. It's USC and UCLA were moving on to greener pastures. So with this new alliance, quote unquote, with the ACC and what remains of the Pac-12, I'm not convinced of its staying power unless there is something actually done in writing, because we saw how weak the first alliance was.
It's interesting because there is that thought that two conferences will gobble up everybody. Can you actually see that, Michael, happening, that there will just be two conferences? Or do you still feel like there will be 4 or 5 Power Fives, and then just the other two get more people in the college football championship playoff?
Right. Well, I really do think that we're heading more and more toward the two superpowers option. I think with the eyes that are on college football and how much money the big time college football programs rake in, and money drives everything in college athletics these days. That's just how it is. And it's survival of the fittest out there. And if you're not in one of those two conferences, you are not getting the amounts of money that the LSUs, the Alabamas, the Michigans, the Ohio States are getting. And that's going to mean you're not getting as good practice facilities, you're not drawing as many recruits, and you're not winning as many games. That's just how it is. So I really do think that if we continue on this course that we are on, it's going to be those two super conferences, quote unquote.
Which would North Carolina want to be a part of if they had their choice?
I think I'm a UNC alum. I've spent a lot of time in Chapel Hill. I think probably the Big Ten, just because UNC and Michigan they kind of view each other as sister schools, sort of. They're in that public Ivy conversation. They play each other a lot in men's basketball. They're playing each other again this December. So I think the Big Ten is where UNC would probably want to lean.
And Mack Brown, we know him. We've had him on this show. He's someone we've known a long, long time. He's a great recruiter. They had kind of a letdown season last year. Was that just kind of expectations were too much for them?
I think it was that probably had something to do with it. They just didn't play well in the games that they needed to play well. The first game at Virginia Tech, Sam Howell throws 3 interceptions. At Georgia Tech, they keep turning the ball over. They fumble the ball, I think, 3 or 4 times. Then in the last 2 games of the season, the bowl game against South Carolina and the regular season finale against NC State, just disastrous. When the lights shone brightest, they completely crumbled. Hopefully that isn't the case this coming year. Maybe it won't be because there won't be as many eyes on them. They're not even close to the conversation of preseason top 25. They're going to have a brand new starting quarterback. So they may come out and play a little looser. Who knows?
How's the NIL been working for them when it comes to football? We know basketball, obviously, coming off the great run, beat Baylor in that second-round game that was incredible up in Fort Worth. But how have they done when it comes to NIL in either sport, but especially in football?
Yeah, I think in football, Sam Howell actually took a real advantage of the NIL. He inked a deal with Bojangles, which is a really popular restaurant here in North Carolina. He was in some commercials, I think, for an air conditioning company with a bunch of his offensive line teammates. And from what I read and from what I heard from Mack Brown, he was very generous with his NIL deal, saying, hey, I'm only going to do it if you give a bunch of money to my teammates as well, to my offensive linemen, to the other skill positions, things like that. UNC has actually been really on the forefront of the NIL game. I just talked to a person in the athletic department a week ago, and he told me that they were the first school in the country to partner with a group called Brandar, which helps athletes capitalize on NIL while using UNC marks and logos. So it's been a really good thing for a lot of Tar Heel athletes, not just in football, like you said, but also in men's basketball, but also in some of the Olympic sports like field hockey, lacrosse. They've really been taking advantage of it.
Have you heard at all, Michael, that Mack Brown could be a great college football commissioner if they ever had one?
I have not heard that. I would next time I see him, I'll tell him you said that. I wonder what he's going to say. But I hadn't heard that. But it does make sense. He is good with the media, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. And tell him Smokey said it, and then of course he might just laugh. But again, he's a friend of the show, and I just thought that would be interesting if he could be that person, or maybe the next president or executive director of the American Football Coaches Association might be something else as well. Craig, anything for Michael? Michael, thanks for your time. I'm glad that I got the story. Good luck with the ACC. We cover the Big 12. We cover throughout the country, but it's great to hopefully things work out and everything kind of settles down here.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. Michael Coe, again, a card of WCHL and a reporter and the story involving the UNC Chancellor, Mike Guskowitz, in his comments to a few people that Michael had in his story.
Yeah, I don't know that we got any clarification really on what exactly those comments meant. So, we'll have to see how this plays out. Not that Michael, was expected to be inside the brain of the person whose comments those were, but, unable to shed so much light that we know exactly what that means, So I think it's going to leave it up to interpretation and people reading between the lines however they can. And we'll see. I don't trust ESPN to just do something out of the kindness of their heart. So to me, if there actually is something to them wanting to renegotiate with the ACC, I want to know what that reason is other than just a gift basket, because there's no reason for them to do that outside of, hey, let's shorten the grant of rights. And instead of in 2036, now everybody's available in 2027. And we can go grab the teams we want to grab and add them to the leagues we want to add them to. That is me being as nefarious as I can be in my mind and playing the role of ESPN. I guess the other side of that would be, this contract's unfair. Let's give them a new deal. Or it could be, we think it's really important for college athletics for the ACC to stay together, but they had no problem throwing the Big 12 into the dumpster can, and they're probably still upset that got thwarted thanks to Brett Zorneman, and then eventually Bob Bowlesby as well. So let's not act like they haven't tried to kill conferences for, the betterment of the conferences that they actually want to work with, because they did that a year ago, and now Texas and Oklahoma are headed to the SEC. So, it comes to them and grant of rights with the ACC when they've got the upper hand for 10-plus years, I need to see some reasoning as to why they would want to do that outside of something nefarious.
There was a cease and desist sent by Bob Bowlesby to ESPN, and I don't know if American Conference and Mike Aresco are part of that or not, but it did slow things down. In fact, it came to a halt. Some of the rumors that ESPN was trying to help the American Conference poach, in fact, the Big 12 to weaken them so it would be easier for Texas and Oklahoma to leave the conference. It wasn't Texas and Oklahoma who got the cease and desist. It was ESPN. All right, when we come back, we're not done. Again, we have a segment here. We're going to read some of the chat, text line questions and comments as well. Appreciate your time every single day. As we now approach, we were over 20,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel, 365 Sports last week. We're now approaching already pretty close to 21,000. We continue to grow, and because of you and our great sponsors, Sikkim, 365 Radio, and 365 Sports. Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, I met him a long, long time ago. Always offered me that if I wanted to or I felt comfortable to need any dental work, that he would help me. And I'm telling you right now, he's done that. I have had a couple different times when my teeth, because of just not probably taking care of them correctly or whatever, I had a back lower molar that one time I bit into like a grape, and it felt like I had bit into a knife. And I mean crippled me. And just what was that? So I tried to deal with it, put some of that stuff, Oragel, whatever, on it for a couple of days. And finally, it got to a point where it just almost like I couldn't sleep. So I called him one time. It was a Friday evening. He met me at his office about an hour or so later. He was out having dinner with his wife and family. He met me at the dentist office, Stonewood Dental in Robinson, took care of the problem to get me through the weekend, and then said, be back here first thing on Monday morning and we'll fix the problem, and he did. That also happened in upper top left molar that I had, did the same thing. I walked in one time on a Friday, and dentist office, you hear about, hey, they're going to get out of there pretty quickly. It's time to go play golf or just hit the weekend. And I came in early one day, and he found a way to fit me in their schedule that was packed. Dr. Steve Childress has been fantastic, and I really appreciate him. He's going to put 2 new crowns in my upper right part of my teeth after I've had a couple of teeth pulled. He's going to do that as well. He's taken me through the process to make sure I know why I need to do that so it doesn't get worse. Stonewood Dental in Robinson, Texas. Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. State Fair tornado fries, nachos, and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, family-owned and operated must-visit pizza place in Waco. Fantastic pizza by the slice or get the whole pie to share. Great happy hour specials every single day, and it's not just pizza. Great wings. You have to try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries, pizza pillows, and more. Dine in for a great hangout or carry-out. Order online at shortyspizzashack.com or do yourself a favor and bring your crew to the restaurant at 12th and Bagby. Shorty's Pizza Shack. Tell them Paul sent you by.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Brad Boozer, Boozer's Jeweler, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive. It's a staple of the Waco economy. What are some of the things you have coming up?
You know, we kind of call ourselves the wedding ring store. We do all of our own custom work in-house. I've got 2 expert jewelers on staff every day. We can make anything from scratch. We kind of pride ourselves. Probably 9 out of 10, every engagement ring we do is actually made custom to what the customer wants.
People look at that, oh my God, I can't afford it. I can't afford something like that. You've shown me examples that you could fit pretty much any budget.
It doesn't cost any more to custom make something. You still have gold, you still have diamonds, and you still have labor. Best thing about a custom piece is if you have any old jewelry or heirloom jewelry or something passed down from a grandma or somebody, we can take that jewelry and use it towards your wedding ring for the sentimental value, and then you've got the product, and then it's just a little bit of labor and a little bit of design on your part of what you actually want.
You want to know why they're successful? Brad Boozer, the owner of Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air in Waco.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
A couple of notes from a viewer of the show. One thing about the shorter deal, that if, in fact, ESPN was to redo the ACC deal, which we look at as why would they do that? Could that then make it more desirable in any way for Notre Dame?
I suppose. I mean, sure. But I don't know. I mean, you're putting me on the spot sitting here thinking about this question.
I'm reading it myself.
No, I know. I'm trying to think of it while I'm also trying to answer it. It's a question that's a little complicated. It's not just yes or no. I'm just trying to look at it from Notre Dame's point of view. What would also that accomplish? But I mean, what is their goal? Are they going to make like huge SEC Big Ten type money in the new ACC renegotiated deal? With that, I mean, has to happen for that to make any sense, right? Because otherwise, if it's not like some giant money, okay, so if they shorten the ACC deal and the grant of rights is now suddenly, instead of being out in 2036, is in 2026, what changes with that? Like, the money would have to be astronomical for Notre Dame to want to sign a shorter deal, because otherwise, what's the point?
Well, if they were to have a shorter deal that allows teams that feel like they have the ability to move on to make more money, if they want to renegotiate it. The bottom line comes down to this: we don't trust ESPN.
No, but I'm just saying, like, what would be Notre Dame's goal with signing to join the ACC in football because they've signed a shorter grant of rights agreement? So Notre Dame makes this transformational decision to join a conference in football, and they choose the third of the best because there's now a shorter grant of rights agreement. So, again, what is the benefit? They don't need to join the ACC. They don't need to save the ACC. They don't need to help any of these other teams, and they're not under contract right now. So why would they sign a contract unless you give me a reason for why they would do that? So to me, the only reason why you would do that is not prestige. They don't need it. It's not the brand. They don't need that. It's not the teams. You'd have to just give gobsmacking amount of money to Notre Dame for them to do that. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, and they might.
I mean, sure, yeah. If you say, "Hey, we'll give you $4 billion to join the ACC for 5 years," then I'd be the first to sign the contract for them if I was anybody who worked at Notre Dame and could do such. But outside of that, yeah, you'd have to really throw some giant money out there, and how giant can you go before and what can you then do for the other? And are they making the same as the rest of the ACC? Because I doubt it.
Clemson and others are not going to say, hey, we've discussed this before. If others in a conference that's still alive and still either thriving or not, the one thing you got to be careful about doing is bringing anybody into the conference, even though it might help strengthen you, that gets more than what you get when you have been a part of the conference forever.
Yeah, we had somebody ask, hey, would the Big 12 give uneven shares, give more to Oregon and Washington for joining the Big 12? It's like, no, because they're barely above the best teams, if they're even above those teams in the Big 12 right now, including the exits of Oklahoma and Texas. I mean, Oregon's a fun brand, and Washington is too, but they are not light years ahead of the Oklahoma States of the world, in my opinion, or even competitively Baylor, or a couple of other teams you could throw into that mix, whether you're talking current or future. But I mean, they're great brands. They're not good enough that they're going to walk into the Big 12 and be making more money than anybody who's already in the Big 12. Just bottom line, they're not that big. Notre Dame clearly is, but as you pose the question, I'm just trying to talk it out here. I don't see what benefit there would be to Notre Dame to do that. I don't see what they're unless it was just, again, $500 million cash straight to South Bend. What purpose would it serve for them?
Here's a note. It's something to bring up. Here's a note, and there's a couple other texts, and we want to get to as well. College football realignment. This is from SI.com. California regions to discuss litigation amid UCLA move. This was expected, but it all just depends on what state you're in, how the legislature or how your state government runs. But this is the University of California Board of Regents planning to meet and discuss the consequences of the move of UCLA leaving along with USC for the Big Ten. Of course, UCLA a part of that Board of Regents or a part of that that brand, but not USC. They're private. And any potential legal issues involved. The session will be closed. The board is obligated to inform the public if any potential litigation, though, is discussed by the group. Well, who exactly could be subject to litigation? One option is the regents are considering legal action against member institution UCLA for its planned move to the Big Ten. Another option, the board could feel itself open to litigation by other parties for UCLA attempting to leave for the Big Ten and separate itself from the UC system in athletic competition. So that's something that I think is almost like not clockwork, but expected, because if you're a part of the University of California system, and for example, California, and you're like, wait a minute, their leaving is going to hurt us. Why would we let that happen? This could be just to meet, to grandstand, I don't know, but that story is on SI.com.
Yeah, and I don't know what quite to make of that either. I saw an education reporter in California, Blake Jones is his name, said the UC Board of Regents will discuss UCLA's membership in the Big Ten and litigation surrounding it at a closed-door meeting next week, while all accounts indicate Berkeley was caught off guard by the conference move. UCLA leadership informed Cal President Michael Drake that discussions between UCLA and the Big Ten were occurring. Drake's a former president of Ohio State, was not involved at all in those discussions. So I don't know. I barely know the characters involved or the logistics of the California system. So I don't want to speak like I know what all this actually means, but it is of interest and certainly raised some eyebrows. And I mean, we have heard of those threatening lawsuits to prevent others from leaving conferences before. So that wouldn't even be a first in this case. I don't know if there's anything actually doable as far as negating this. I find it very hard to believe, and I think if there was, there would be far more of an outcry over this little note. It'd be far bigger than a note if there was any chance, in my mind at least, that this could lead to everything careening off the tracks. So, what does it ultimately mean? I guess the Cal education people out there and those more well-versed with the logistics and the politics and how all that works could enlighten us a little bit. But, yeah, it's of interest. I just don't know how much it actually could change, if any change could occur.
From Caleb, I'm a Michigan fan. This is from Caleb in Michigan. Notre Dame claims they're a national brand. They are high on themselves. They also have too much voting power, in his opinion, for one school. For them to join a conference, they have to give up that voting power. Notre Dame is only going to do what's best for them. Can't blame them for that.
No, absolutely not. We just had Carlos Silva on here, and I've noticed that amongst the Tech fans that I see or come across, that they are one of those fan bases that's not all gung-ho about the new Big 12, and I saw where they were trying to join the Pac, some of them, multiple times. They were doing it last year, Tech to the Pac-12, when Oklahoma and Texas decided to leave. So I've definitely got those vibes from Tech folks. Carlos basically just laid it out there. What everybody's probably thinking is the same thing. You got to watch out for yourself, ultimately. I mean, you see how the alliance worked out. You see what, little handshakes and all that can do. So if you're Texas Tech or if you're UCLA or if you're BYU or whoever you are, you got to do what's best for you, and that goes for Notre Dame as well. I will ask this. I mean, is Notre Dame still Notre Dame if they're in a conference? And what I mean by that is, do you think the perception changes? Because I do think they lose a little bit of their superpower if they join a conference, even if that is the Big Ten. I think that just makes them more like everybody else, whereas right now they are very much their own thing. And by blending in with Ohio State and Michigan and Iowa and all of those schools and UCLA and USC, I know why that would be really hard to pass up and why that would be tempting for them. But do you think, even if they keep their own NBC TV deal and all that, it changes them at all? Because to me, it does weaken some of their superpower somewhat, or just the aura. The aura is affected somewhat, in my opinion.
Yeah, they're giving up a little. Well, they're literally giving up some of their independence
than everybody. Yeah. They're different than everybody, and there's other independents, but none of them are on par with Notre Dame. And they're an independent who's not answering to any commissioner that's on par with the Ohio States and the UTs and every big school you want to throw out there. So in my mind, I understand the argument for why they feel like the time is now to join the Big Ten and the money and, oh, my God, the money. But I do think it just kind of makes them more like everybody else, and they haven't always been like everybody else. But I would be curious to hear others' thoughts on that. So that's why I'm throwing it out there.
A couple more text line comments as well, and plus the chat room from the the 806. I think ESPN and Fox will both have two conferences. They make media deals with ESPN, with the SEC and ACC, and the ACC will make half as much per school. Fox with the Big Ten and Big 12. The Big 12 will make half as much as the Big Ten schools. 4 conferences, 16 to 18 teams apiece. If you make half of what the SEC and Big Ten are making, you're making about $50 million a year. That's a bump for both conferences. Big time.
That is, but there's no way that you're keeping your best brands. There's more realignment then, right? Because Clemson's not sticking around to make $50 million, even if it is more than they're making right now. If the other
they have
teams
options to go elsewhere,
right? Yeah. So. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I could see that. Certainly there's the consolidation piece that everybody has talked about. Who's talked realignment has talked about, where this ultimately leads us. And I don't know that, except for those in charge, anybody really knows, because depending on who you ask, it's the NFC AFC thing, and then nothing else matters. Depending on who you ask, it could be some NFC AFC, like why you would want to be the NFL. I don't know, but it's that. But all these other schools still matter, which is where more of I am. I don't even know if it's going to be NFC AFC thing, because I think it's going to be more than those two conferences playing for titles. I do think that you're still going to have the Big 12 involved and the ACC involved, so long as they're still standing and alive. There might be more of those other two that get opportunities. There's certainly going to be more money, but I don't know. I'm just having a really hard time seeing where we just go down to like 32 teams or 40 teams and just go, this is college football, and everything else isn't really big-time college football. And maybe, for some people it's already that way to some extent. But I don't know. You're leaving a lot of schools, a lot of programs, a lot of people out in the cold. And I don't know that that's even best for business. It's best for about 40 schools, but is that best for the sport? Is that best for the landscape? I don't think that it is. It's the best.
It all depends on who you ask. If you're
one of the 40, then sure. Yeah. But if you're everybody else, no. And there's a lot of everybody else's out there.
But there are others, and there are coaches. And Nick Saban mentioned this, and I mentioned the interview with Greg McElroy. He's a have. He's a part of the ultimate have. But he seems to even not so sure he likes that. Now, you could say that, it's easy for him to say. Maybe we'll start to see some of the other schools or coaches, bigger name coaches around the country themselves start to say a little bit more about where we are as Big 12 Media Days, and then there's also the SEC and the ACC and the Pac-12 and much more. Maybe someone like Dabo Swinney will say something. Maybe, again, what they say, does it move the needle? Some more than others. Some more than others. From Joel, looking at the brands by viewership and, of course, competitive is on the field. Oklahoma State, Baylor, more than hold their own. In fact, some respects, including viewership, they're better than Washington.
I'd tell you right now, I said this on the podcast earlier today, give Baylor or Oklahoma State for that matter, or Texas Tech even. Baylor's a safer bet because they've been actually doing it, pretty much across the board. With a basketball title and Big 12 Sugar Bowl, women we know have been very successful, all that stuff. That's all been going on within the last couple years. So the others maybe some successes, but not as consistent. But they could apply too. So anyways, give Baylor a fair share of that SEC or Big Ten money, okay? Give them $100 million per year, right? You think that they can compete with just about anybody?
Yeah. I mean,
hell yeah, they could.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, they could. Could they? And I'm not saying they'd go beat Bama. Paul, he said they're going to beat Bama. No, I'm not saying that. But you know what? I think they could. Give them $100 million, and I'm not saying they're going to win a national title every year, even make the playoff every year. But they're already competing at a disadvantage and doing very well, and they're not the only program doing that. So, yeah, put them in there and give them $100 million per year. And I think Oklahoma State, I think Baylor, I think Texas Tech, I think, a lot of programs could compete. So, you're already seeing those teams have a lot of success not making anywhere near that money or anywhere near some of the schools in their conference make. Texas, for example, or Oklahoma with their extra rights, for example. And they're beating those schools on a regular basis, which is part of the reason why I know those teams want to leave. They're like, screw this. We're basically funding our own ass kickings. But, I feel confident that you put them in that arena and they're going to still compete, so long as it's a somewhat even playing field. But, I don't know. Again, we don't know how exclusive they want to make this club, but yeah, I feel confident that they could do that, both Cowboys and the Bears.
All right, some more from the 580, Smokey and Craig. Sikkim 365. I listen to you guys almost every day. Love the content. I've been a Red Raiders fan since 2011. Survived the worst 10-year of Texas Tech football history. When will I see my Red Raiders have a 10-win season? Scarlet and Black love, Der Wake.
Not this year.
It won't be this year. If it is, it's Joey McGuire's Coach of the Year.
Yeah.
We will see him, in fact, and have him on this week at Big 12 Media Days. Looking forward to that.
I do think they're sagging intentionally a little bit of the expectations. I do think there's a little bit of Matt Rule going on here where it's like they're not going to be 2-win or 1-11, but I do think there's a little bit of downplaying of expectations because if you read Max Olson's State of the Program article, and I understand it's a new head coach, it's a first-time head coach, and it's a new staff. I get that. But it's a very experienced staff, or a nice mixture of old veterans and young up-and-coming coaches. And Joey is going to be the CEO, basically, right? I mean, he's not going to be like the offensive mind, or he's not going to be a defensive mind, or an offensive mind like a Sarkisian, or a defensive mind like an Aranda. He's just going to be like, hey, assistants, go do your best, and I will be here to do whatever I have to do in the meantime. They brought in 10-plus transfers. They've got several key players back. And their schedule to start off with is a little bit difficult. I think that non-con's probably prevent people from going a little higher with them. My point being, I think they're going to be better than expected. But the thing is just how good the rest of the Big 12 also is expected to be. But 10 wins, that's probably a couple years away. But I don't think that, saying they should make a bowl game this year is anything crazy to say at all. They did it last year in the midst of all that. And they got pretty much all those people back, save for a couple here and there. So there's definitely an excitement building. And I think that, them winning 7 games or something like that would be more than respectable and could definitely happen this upcoming year. And then they do that and build off that, then maybe 10's not that far away.
We'll have Craig's off the radar, but a couple of more of the text line comments. Raymond, I just realized college sports is dying every time I realize that the TV markets are in charge and not some fundamental college authority. Wow, I just said it first. And Raymond, there's a lot of people that feel that way, that collegiate athletics is going in a different direction. There's some great things with it. The athletes are finally getting what they are, I guess, their value and what they earn. Should there be ways around making sure it doesn't become the Wild West? That's too late for that. Will they ever get guardrails? We don't know. Nick Saban again. I mentioned him again yesterday in a podcast, talked about guardrails. People get mad when I mention that because I'm trying to downplay how much athletes should get. No, I'm not. I get whatever you can, like I would.
Man, those people that anytime you bring up any downside to NIL who just crow about, you don't care about the athletes, you don't want players. Those are the worst. The worst, because it's such an awful take and it's a dishonest take, because it had to repeat it every time NIL is brought up that that's not the point, but that's what those people run with. I absolutely hate that. You can have criticisms of NIL and not be anti-NIL. So that's all I want to say
From
about
the
that.
573, then a break. Smokey and Craig, I think ESPN would only increase the ACC contract if elite teams like Clemson and Florida State were contemplating joining the Big Ten for more money. By increasing the current deal, it could appease these schools, which guarantees ESPN keeps them under their umbrella within the ACC.
Yeah, but they don't have to do that. I mean, they're under contract till 2036. 2036. So what? Like, why do that right now?
Unless there's a feeling that they can somehow, and we've seen that Texas and Oklahoma haven't been able to get out of anything. Otherwise, they would, believe me. Unless there's something that allows them to just bolt.
I mean, unless there is some loophole that no one's discovered just yet, legalese-wise, and perhaps there is, I don't know, some smoking gun. I don't know how they're getting out of that. We've seen a lot of the tabulations. I think people have tried to get into what information is available to determine what the grant of rights payout would be, and it's like hundreds of millions of dollars per school, so it's not all that realistic, even for the richest of schools. I mean, again, like as you point out, I mean, what are we talking about, $80 million with Oklahoma and Texas? And we know Texas could probably pay that, but that's still $80 million freaking dollars. Like that's
maybe
a lot
$80 million twice.
That's a lot of freaking money, man.
Yeah.
Even if you're Texas, that's a lot of money to write a check for. So I just feel like if there was, some loophole and that you were trying to close, then yeah, perhaps. But I'm failing to see without that type of information what negotiating chip that Clemson, for example, would have right now. Because all they could really do is threaten to leave. But if they really don't have a threat to leave, and they've got 12 years remaining on a contract, 13 years remaining on a contract. I just don't see what the play is for ESPN. So yeah, it's very curious, that comment from North Carolina on what exactly that meant, what the timeline actually meant, because that could have meant, eventually. So in 2032, we all of a sudden hear about this reworked ACC. I know it would be ridiculous for him to mention that, but without a little bit more clarity, it's hard to tell what exactly that means.
And we're talking about Guskowitz, who's the chancellor at North Carolina.
Got confidence that ESPN will rework the deal, but again, I'm failing to see their motivation to do so. They have the entire upper hand right now.
512, love the show. Interesting thought. I know the SEC's not looking to expand, but if they did expand 4 more, who do you think they would go after? And he mentioned schools. Here's my point to that. I don't see the SEC adding anymore, not because of what Greg Sankey said, because I think 16 is just a perfect number. Here's the other thing. If they're going to get $100 million or more per team with whatever they're about to get, their new deal, that means whoever you add better be more than worth $100 million or more per year in a TV deal, because otherwise you're diluting the product. You might get names like Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina, whoever it is, but are they going to bring in each an extra $100 million a year in a TV deal?
Notre Dame would.
Notre Dame?
I mean, Notre Dame's the top one as far as who can bring the most bang for their buck. Now, how much that actually results in teams making more than $100 million with the addition of Notre Dame, I don't know. I've seen so many different figures thrown out there. I know Tony Altomore does stuff, but there's Google college football on Twitter and so many different things pop up. But yeah, I mean, let's just say, okay, money doesn't matter. They're just looking for world conquest or something. I mean, Notre Dame would be the number one. And then everybody bolts to the ACC because they've got the best remaining programs. So to give you the default answer that basically all of college football would give you, Notre Dame, Clemson, Florida State, and Miami seem like a fair. And then you could maybe switch out one of those for, North Carolina, in theory. But those seem like a pretty salty four right there. Miami, Florida State, Notre Dame, and Clemson.
They have to bring in as much as what now each team, Vanderbilt to Alabama, Georgia, Florida, A&M, Texas, Oklahoma, whoever, LSU, or Georgia are going to get with the new TV deal. When we come back, Craig Smoak's Off the Radar, Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
I hate my job, but I don't mind getting up in the morning. I dread each day, but I can't wait to get out of bed. You ask me why, and what I'll say to you is true. Well, you can get breakfast tacos at Rudy's Barbecue. Scrambled eggs and brisket, they ain't fooling around. Sausage wrap, son, they're the best in town. Barbecue for breakfast, yes, it's true. Put a smile on your morning at Rudy's Barbecue. Next in line.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injuries, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
It's summertime. There's picnics, reunions, cookouts, and so much to do. And Waco Custom Marketplace on Lake Air Drive in Waco is your home for the butcher shop that can help you with beef, pork, poultry, and seafood. They are spectacular at being able to deliver you whatever cut of steak you want. Bone-in ribeye, however thick you want it, that's great. They'll do it. Sirloin, T-bone, porterhouse, bacon-wrapped filet. And, of course, as I mentioned, they have pork, poultry, and seafood. Their Norwegian salmon is spectacular. Also, all of the sauces and seasonings you'll ever need, all the ingredients you'll ever need to make sure you have that perfect, flawless taste. So it's delicious whenever you take something off the grill. And a full-fledged bakery as well, with fresh baked bread and kolaches every single day. Up and down the aisle of Waco Custom Marketplace, you also have what you need, from knickknacks to snacks to more, at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, Waco Custom Marketplace.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year, whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street, behind the bank.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for Craig Smoak's Off the Radar. Brought to you by Pickup Outfitters. Since 1997, we've been outfitting trucks, SUVs, and vans at 220 Lake Air Drive or createacommotion.com.
All right, welcome into Off the Radar here on Sikkim 365 Radio. This is a segment twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays where we generally take a little step outside the normal conversation, which has been hot and heavy realignment, and talk about a few of the other things going on in sports, just headlines of sorts of interest, stories of interest, etc. And I don't have a ton this week, so might just focus on a couple of stories and leave it at that with the clock where it is, but a few things to get to, and I want to start off with an update on former Alabama star and very briefly, a star in the making potentially for the Las Vegas Raiders, Henry Ruggs. We all know about the horrific car crash that occurred back in the fall the former Raiders receiver, was seen on camera for the first time since last year when everything first went down. He's been in jail, but he appeared in a courtroom out in Las Vegas for the latest hearing in the DUI crash. He was charged in November, 4 felonies, accused of killing Tina Tintor and her dog in what was a fiery car crash. He showed up with his attorneys, and his attorneys actually argued that the police did not have probable cause to obtain his blood following the accident. They didn't have probable cause to obtain a warrant to collect his blood, and they asked for the test, which apparently the test showed that Ruggs had a blood alcohol level of 0.161, which is more than double of the 0.08 that it is here in Texas. And they were trying to get that basically tossed as evidence, saying that, it was unfairly collected or however you want to jargon that. But the judge did deny that motion. And so Ruggs was in court. It wasn't really much to comment on based on those that were there as far as, anything that he did in particular other than just being there and it being the first time that he's been seen since last November. But an attempt by his lawyers to get that blood alcohol test thrown out is not going to go his way. And so he is still facing more than 50 years if he is convicted on all the charges against him. He has another hearing coming up in September. First time to see him in a few months, and still just... a terrible story because of what happened to that young woman and also her dog, and just the mental picture of it. I don't even want to go back to, because back then it was pretty harsh to wrap your head around what exactly happened. But I still, I see that 156 miles per hour, and I don't have the words for how angry and upset that makes me. 156 miles per hour and what that then turned into. And we'll see what happens at his next hearing, which, again, I said is in September. But it's an awful, awful story, and a small update on Henry Ruggs there for everybody. And I know that Saban, made some comments back at the time, and, those were interesting to hear, and it's been kind of quiet since then. But just a tragedy, an awful, awful tragedy. So we'll see what happens with Henry Ruggs.
I can't imagine. Of course, he was under the influence as well.
Clearly.
There's a picture on ESPN.com of the two cars. Have been burned. They're burned from the inside and outside, and they're slammed together and smashed, and it's just sickening. And you could be doing 15 miles an hour and be under influence and kill somebody.
Yeah, it's just not a good idea to be in a car and drive. But yeah, being under the influence, double the limit, and also doing 156 miles per hour, just not a very smart move. So that's the latest on Henry Ruggs. And this is not going to be the depression hour. I promise. I'm not going to go with all sad stories, but that just so happens a few of the off-the-radar things are of the sad variety. Henry Ruggs, and obviously all that happened there with the victim and her pet and everything is terrible. But we've got an update on the passing of Marion Barber, former Cowboys running back, as well. And there was any number of speculation. Marion Barber was just kind of a different cat. I don't know how else to describe him. He wasn't just your, prototypical NFL star who you just see with a big smile, making big money and doing interviews. And I don't know. He was just very quiet, definitely not flashy, just a bruiser guy. I know there's other guys like that, but he's not somebody that necessarily stood out. And so when his passing was announced so abruptly, I know a lot of people's minds went a lot of different places. Like, was it a drug thing? Was it a suicide, depression? Obviously with what's going on in the world the last couple of years, we've seen rates rise in that regard. So it turns out to be none of the above. Marion Barber passed away in sauna-like conditions in his apartment, and he ended up dying of heat stroke. Apparently, according to people who knew him, he did have an affinity for wanting to work out inside, and there was exercise equipment that was present inside his apartment. They said that he did have a history of exercising during sauna-like conditions, but when police showed up at the residence, the thermostat was set to 91 degrees and the heat was set to on, and this happened just a few months ago, so it was already hot in Texas. It's just not as hot as it is right now, but still plenty hot. So 91 degrees, it was set to, the heat set to on, and there was exercise equipment. So the theory is that he was probably working out, but there was no trauma evidence. There was no drug overuse, anything like that was found. Nothing inside his body after the toxicology test. So officers say he hadn't been seen for around 3 weeks prior to his discovery on June 1st. So June 1st, definitely hot enough, especially if you got 91 degrees in your apartment and you're working out. So definitely not what was expected, whatever could have been expected. I just don't think that this is something that people would have predicted. But there we have it. There's the word on Marion Barber's very sudden and untimely passing.
Yeah, you hear about something like this and you just jump to a conclusion, and God, how bad is that? Any way to go is bad, like drowning or whatever.
Well,
but
he was found in the shower. The water was running, but it was a shower. But yeah, just heat stroke.
You wonder if he was basically getting underneath the shower head
like sauna?
To just try to, or maybe trying to cool himself down because he felt something was weird and it was too late. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's very possible, and I'm sure that those are the questions that his loved ones are asking as well, but just very kind of bizarre thing to hear, and obviously very unexpected that was the case after all was said and done. But there is an update on Marion Barber and how he eventually did pass away. The Houston Texans seen a lot of Jalen Petrie love, and they're definitely using him in promotions, but they are going to be debuting a new Battle Red helmet, and I did see Jalen Petrie celebrating this earlier today, so the new Lovie Smith era is getting under, I guess it was yesterday actually, but the Lovie Smith era getting underway, and the Houston Texans will be adding a red alternate helmet, so it'd be cool to see Jalen Petrie, former Baylor star, rocking that. Also, Patriots traded wide receiver N'Keal Harry to the Bears for a 2024 7th-round pick. That reported earlier today by Ian Rappaport and Mike Garofalo. Harry, a former first-round pick for the Patriots, now being dealt for a 7th-round pick. So a little bit of a fall from grace there, but one of the more notable moves today in the NFL. And you know what? I think I'm going to go ahead and just leave it right there. Those are a couple of things that are off the radar.
All right, Craig, thank you very much. Tomorrow, live from Big 12 Media Days, Three Nations Brewery. Thanks to John Royers. We appreciate him, our sponsor of that coverage, along with the legacy sponsors we've had since the first show on April the 6th of 2020. We will be there with coaches, players. Brett Yormark, the commissioner, will stop by with us as well. Dr. Linda Livingstone, Dave Aranda, Baylor players, but not just that. Been in touch with every single school with their media relations department, and we will have full throttle, covered wall to wall. And a lot of our coverage we'll be able to have even before we hit the air at 3 o'clock on Wednesday and also on Thursday. Coming up next, we'll get a couple of notes on in the text line and chat room. Secondly, we will have Rob Bolton. He is with the PGAtour.com. He is someone who kind of handicaps big tournaments, even the weekly tournaments, but the major championships. He comes on and joins us about that. We'll have that. Tiger Woods today with a couple of comments about LIV. Jack Nicklaus honored today by Royal St. Andrews. And of course, the Open Championship history as well, the third American to get that honor. We'll have all that and more with Rob Bolton, Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Pioneer Steel and Pipe. Been in business since 1943. 1943, and here they are, building a bigger, better, faster, stronger facility here in Waco because they're growing. And they have weathered the storm financially and economically, whatever our country goes through, whatever has happened overseas or any kind of attacks or wars or anything like that. Think about that. Since 1943, and here they are building a massive center, facility, business, bigger, better, faster, and stronger. And because of that, they'll have more product. Because of that, they can deliver even quicker to you, whether it's at the location, real estate, commercial, or residential. They can do that, and they will also unload the heavy equipment if you need it. Pioneer Steel and Pipe, they do a great job. Also, customer service is not just some slogan, it is real. And that's how you also stay in business and continue to get stronger since 1943. More information, pipe, metal, and steel, pioneerboys.com.
The secret to living your best life is pizza, obviously. Golden crust made from scratch, 3 fresh signature cheeses, and the toppings, crispy Old World pepperoni, savory Italian sausage, bacon. That's called a dream team. Find everything you need to live your best life and more at Marco's Pizza. Owner Bob Mock has been delivering pizza since 2001 and is the proud owner of 4 locations in Waco, Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to be open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Brad Boozer, Boozer's Jeweler, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. This is a great time for your business.
Exactly. And one other thing we do that a lot of people don't know is we buy jewelry, heirloom pieces, gold, silver bars, gold bullion, watches, anything you may have that you want to. If you don't want to use it and remake something like I did in a state yesterday and I looked at 35 pieces, well, they're probably going to sell me back 30 because it's something they're not going to wear, nothing to use. So if you're looking to get a few bucks or to sell something or something you just don't wear anymore, I make my wife go through her jewelry box about every 6 to 8 months, and the things that she doesn't wear on a daily basis, this sounds horrible, but I take away from her and then I'll put in my estate counter, but then that gives me the chance to rebuy her something new moving forward. Instead of looking down 20 years down the road and you have 300 pieces of jewelry, it's something to refresh and make her buy something new along the way.
You want to know why they're successful? Brad Boozer, the owner of Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air in Waco.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, everyone. This is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like mortgage lending, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
High formation look for Baylor. They give it to the fullback. Touchdown, Baylor.
Why not?
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Ben Erlinson, who'll navigate you through today's financial climate. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now, here's David Smoak and Craig Smoak.
We will hear from Rob Bolton, PGAtour.com, in a moment. He has his power rankings on PGAtour.com, the Open Championship, St. Andrews. Obviously, what we do is Emery, Paul, Garrett, are you going to do this? And then Rob Bolton, Craig, and then also myself. We will pick. We get to pick 4 players. We'll do it in order. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, how many we do. And then we go backwards and then backwards. So all the way till you get 4 players. The rules are we're going to pick a player, 4 of them. If any of your 4 players do not make it to the weekend, if they miss the cut, your team, no matter if you end up with a champion or not, is gone. It's very difficult. It's like making the cut or getting a tour card. And with the Open Championship, it opens up even some more possibilities. Paul is out of town in Hawaii, as we mentioned yesterday. So we're going to use Rob's top 25 or top 20 poll or rankings. So when it's Paul's turn, we will turn around and he will pick whoever is up next. Before we do that, a couple other notes today. Craig, Tim Griffin worked down in San Antonio, covered college football, covered the state of Texas. Great writer, great dude. We mentioned yesterday about Ted Nichols-Payne passing away from the 105.3 The Fan in Dallas. Has been around the Dallas area, Dallas-Fort Worth area forever. Is an incredible engineer who suddenly passed away. And then also Tim Griffin had been battling cancer. The note earlier or late last week that he passed away was just a great gentleman and just a fantastic writer.
Yeah, I didn't know either very well. Ted Nichols-Payne I saw around quite a bit. Same thing with Tim Griffin. But, yeah, I did get to converse with Tim a little bit more early on. When I first got to Waco, he was around a lot more when, Bryles and company were winning Big 12 titles. It was about the time I got here, and he was around quite a bit. Media sessions were a bit different. That was pre-COVID. There was a lot, that was just different. So Tim would be out there amongst the national reporters that would come around from time to time, and got to know him just a little. Certainly not as well as most, but yeah, very sad to hear that news. Don't even know the last time I would have seen him, just because things have been so crazy, like I said. But he was a good dude when I was around him, and a great reporter as well. So just part of getting older, I guess. But it does really feel like there's just almost every week some person that is passing away of something or another, and just sad to hear it all.
All right, so we're going to do this about as lackadaisical as we could possibly do it. We're going to introduce Rob here in just a moment. Emery, you're going to be a part of this. Come pick up one of these pieces of paper. Craig, you pick up one of those pieces of paper. I don't have the hat. With Paul is in Hawaii, and so this is to pick the order. Go ahead. Come on in. Pick it. Tell me which one you pick. Which number is on your piece of paper. Craig, you go ahead and get one of yours as well. 5 for Emery. Okay, Craig, what's yours?
2.
Craig is 2. Rob, I'm picking one up for you, okay? Just going to lean over. I don't have any idea which one this is. And you are you're number 4, which is not bad on the backside. This next one will be, mine is 1. Paul is then 3. All right, Rob, it is St. Andrews. Is there anything better?
I think you just said it. We all know what it looks like. We all know what it means. I wrote this week that the golf course is more important than the winner. How about that?
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like that, though. The golf course will get a worthy champion because the golf course is worthy of it. That's kind of the vibe. And I just love that we have lived long enough to have experienced a couple of these now in high definition. Back in the days on ABC when the ball would move back and forth, it looked like you're playing Pong on your television trying to see where the ball lands. Now it's in HD. We get expanded coverage, wall to wall. Doesn't get any better than this, and the weather's going to cooperate as well. Sorry, Saturday's going to be a little spicy, but other than that, it's going to be an outstanding week.
All right, here we go. We're going to make our picks. I got the first pick, which means I don't pick again until number 10, and we'll use your power rankings on who Paul is when he comes up at number 3. I will start.
Okay.
I'm going to start with Fitzpatrick. Craig, you're next.
Go Scheffler.
Scotty Scheffler. Paul would be next, and that would be – who would be next in your power? Okay, I got him right here in front of me.
Rory
McIlroy. Okay. Rob, you're next.
I'll stick with that team and go with John Rahm, number 2.
Okay.
The power ranking.
Emery. Xander Schauffele. That makes great sense after what he just did in Scotland. And you get a follow-up pick. Justin Thomas. JT. Rob, you're back your way.
Jordan Spieth fell to me, so I'll take him.
Jordan Spieth for Rob. Paul Catalina would then be next, and that would be Fleetwood, correct?
Yes, it would.
All right, Craig, you're next.
Will Zalatoris.
Zalatoris, I've had him. He's the one that helped me win the PGA Championship. I'll take Morikawa at 1, at my third pick or second pick, and turn around.
Get the defending champion. Nice.
Yeah, I know. And I'm going to take Lowry after that. Back to you, Craig.
Let's see here. Trying to write it all down at the same time. Let's go with Matt Fitzpatrick.
No, I got him already.
Okay, Sam Burns.
Sam Burns, okay, good pick. Paul would be next, and that would be Cameron Smith.
Yeah.
Back to you, Rob.
Who needs to attend one of these things? He's doing mighty fine with it.
Yeah.
Because of the format, because it's so important to make the cut, and because he's a former winner, which doesn't hurt at St. Andrews, Louis Oosthuizen.
Oosty, okay. Emery, you get 2 picks.
And then I'll go Victor Hovland and Hideki Matsuyama.
Okay, he has Hovland and Matsuyama. All right. And Rob, you go backwards with your 4th pick.
Yeah. Oh boy. Do I do it? I got to do it. I got to take Cantlay. Got to keep the faith.
Yeah, that's going according to form, which means Paul would be next and take Tyrell Hatton, correct?
Yeah, the bane of these drafts over the years, Tyrell Hatton.
I know. All right, Craig, you have one more pick.
I'm going to go, I guess, probably a little outside the box first, the rankings. Joaquin Neiman.
Oh, he's a top 20 guy, right, Rob?
Yeah, he's down there at 19.
How about Yu Young Kim?
Tom the Tank Engine. Nice. Yeah, what a special player that kid is. 20 years of age.
20 years of age. He was fantastic.
Third.
Yeah.
First time he's ever played a links course last week. Finished third.
Yeah, I know.
Links style.
And
this is a little more linksy this week.
He bogeyed 18, did he not? And kind of, but he played incredibly well.
From like 60 feet.
Yeah. I'm just going to go with that because I'm the defending champion, so I'm playing with house money.
I love that you open with Fitzpatrick. You got the defending champion on the flip side. You know, I passed on Fitzpatrick during our draft a month ago because I wanted to have a little fun, and I think it was Sunjay M. And M missed the cut, but I already had Laurie who missed the cut, so I would have. And then you took Fitzpatrick very smartly, obviously, right after me with him. But I was almost thankful that Laurie missed the cut because then it wouldn't have mattered anyway if I had Fitzpatrick. It's one of the benefits of the format is if you're already out early, you're already out. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's right.
And you were the only one who made all 4. That's how difficult this is. We could go right down the power rankings, as we've talked about so many times. And it really, you got to be careful.
It's a very difficult course, but it is so unique. You know, it's the weather, as you said, could flare up. When you look at some of the great names, obviously Mickelson hasn't played well. Tiger's played. This will be his 3rd tournament, and he couldn't finish the PGA Championship. Is there who among those two has the better chance to make the cut?
Tiger Woods, because he is so smart. My concern is that he stays out of the bunkers with that leg. I mean, that's really the number one thing for me. If he stays out of the bunkers, look out. I mean, top 10, not out of the question. Tiger Woods, St. Andrews, blah, blah, blah. But if he gets in those bunkers, you know, depending on the stance, you could see him. I mean, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but you could see him taking a penalty if the shot doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Now, there's so much expanse out there that he could hit it backwards just to get out of the way, so it's like a penalty anyway. But you can't guarantee that lie if he wasn't dropping. So we'll see. We might see something out of him that we've never seen before, and we've seen quite a bit out of him. So confidence is much higher. Mickelson's game, you can obviously flare it around that place, but I just don't like anything about where he is, his headspace, what he's been dealing with. We don't know how it's all affecting him. And, you know, while some of these tournaments are coming up at a great time for so many of these guys, as a longtime fan of Phil Mickelson, I'd almost want him to spend a little more time not playing, or at least not being in the spotlight like he has, and then let some of this other stuff, let the dust settle, and to see where we are. Because guys, I mean, it was just a couple, 3 months ago, we thought maybe we'd be behind some of the stuff, and we're not at all. So, morbidly curious about what Mickelson does this week, where I'm fascinated by how Tiger navigates this course.
He, of course, made comments about LIV. He said, I don't agree with it. I think that what they've done is they've turned their back on what has allowed them to get into this position. You have people on either side. What's interesting is we just made our picks, and none of the high-profile named players on LIV, Bryson, Dustin Johnson, Brooks Koepka, obviously Mickelson, Poulter, who always plays well in these kind of tournaments, we did not mention a one of them.
Yeah, which is funny because you'd think that those guys are at the tip of our tongue, and you just mentioned that you didn't think that we drafted any of them, but I did with Oosthuizen. He's part of that.
Oh, that's right. You're right.
We
absolutely
sort of glossed over him.
Yeah.
I mean, we're only focusing on like the shiniest toys, so to speak. But to your point, Smokey, it's that so many of these guys have not been playing well for a long period of time. So they don't deserve our draft picks. I qualified mine with Oosthuizen because he's probably going to make the cut, and I really want that in this form. That's paid off time and again, as you guys have noticed. But nevertheless, he is part of that crew, and we're not going to see him much on the PGA Tour in the short term, at least that we know of. But this week he gets to go out there and play his ball.
Nicholas was honored by Royal St. Andrews, and that was a really cool deal. I watched that speech earlier today, the 150th Open Championship. And then one other question is, I saw where is there a class action suit that might be going on or at least somebody an opening up investigation that the PGA Tour may have done some things they shouldn't have done with LIV?
Well, it's a little, I'm not going to get into the legalese because I'm not a lawyer, but yeah, it's a little bit like what happened in 1994 with the antitrust lawsuit violation, allegedly that ended up not going anywhere. Kind of sparked the whole thing with the World Golf Championships eventually. It all tied into that back then. Essentially, Tour came out of that, relatively unscathed. Again, I'm not a lawyer, but
right.
And they're confident that this is very similar to that. We'll see. This is predictable as well. So just think of it this way. I mean, obviously I work for the PGA Tour, so, everybody listening is going to have a certain viewpoint on where I'm coming from. But just remember that in any business, no matter what it is, anytime one of your leaders or, constituents gets out there and says something, it's prepared rhetoric. It's not just on the cuff. You're ready for these questions, and the Tour is ready for this. They saw this coming. I think anybody that was following this regularly and closely over time figured that something like this was going to happen. We just didn't know exactly in sort of what format, but this is going to be it. And the first one, maybe there'll be more. We'll see. But it's an interesting, place and time, and everybody's sort of picking their teams, their tribes, potentially, and we'll see where it goes. But there's so much that's not resolved, and maybe this will be good for everybody involved, and we'll have a harmony. Obviously, since the last time we spoke, Jay Monahan got out there and explained what's going to happen in 2024 with the new calendar year and the new fall season. We're going to have basically 4 months of no official PGA Tour action that contributes to the FedEx Cup. So the world's going to be a very different place in just a very short period of time. And maybe there'll be some sort of coexistence between LIV, between the PGA Tour. Not that everybody wants that necessarily in the way it is right now, but it could be where we're headed. But so much has changed in just the last 6 months that who knows what's going to happen just a month from now, 2 months from now. We'll see where this lawsuit takes us.
One more thing, Rob, if you don't mind, is they're trying to get world ranking points at LIV. Can they get that with 54-hole tournaments? Is there like a prerequisite for something like that? Instead of getting, let's say, 100 points or 1,400 points, would it be less because of the length of the tournaments they play? If they even get that?
Well, on that factor alone, there are 54-hole events worldwide that are contributing or that are receiving world golf ranking points. So I think once that elevates or emerges as a front burner topic and we're all talking about it, that will come out in terms of there's a precedent for it. So we'll see how that is dealt with. Jay Monahan's on the board for the official world golf ranking, and the PGA Tour has a seat at that table. Like all 6 federation tours, and and they're overseeing the entire game. I mean, they're the policy holders for what's happening in the world of golf. So they'll have to listen to everybody, and obviously they have their own, vested interests in what's happening, not only with LIV, but with the alliance, the strategic alliance the PGA Tour and the DP World Tour have now. But that is a key factor, and perhaps LIV will evolve to erase that. Perhaps it'll be a compromise. But on that factor alone, there actually is some precedent to it. So that should be a fascinating component of the conversation. Probably not in the too distant future.
At Rob Bolton Golf on Twitter, he will post the rounds as we go. Thank you for your time, Rob. We appreciate it. Trying to get your championship back. Somebody broke the dynasty.
I will arm wrestle for it if we tie.
You got it, buddy. You got it. Thank you very much, man.
Right,
we appreciate it.
Have a good one, guys.
Yeah, you too. The 213, as we were talking to Rob, the U.S. Department is investigating the PGA Tour for antitrust violations. This is not like the last investigation. 94 was 30 years ago. A lot has changed. This is about anti-competitive practices. Thank you for the text from the 213. If you want to get up and watch the Open, you got to get up early. 1:30 is when they start coverage on Thursday and Friday on the Peacock Network, eventually USA, and then the Peacock again. Saturday, 5 o'clock. I believe this is 5 o'clock Eastern on USA, and then the rest of the day on NBC Saturday and also Sunday. Jack Nicklaus, by the way, when he was honored as an honorary citizen at St. Andrews, do you know else the Americans who have been honored? Benjamin Franklin and Bobby Jones. And now Jack Nicklaus. 5:24 when we come back, John McClain, columnist, Hall of Fame columnist, and more. Craig Smoak and David Smoak, Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
Make this a summer sales event is happening now at Allen Samuels on the new 2022 Ram 1500 Crew Cab Lone Star. With special values up to $7,000 or get $1,500 bonus cash and 2.9% for 72 months. Ram trucks are designed to be durable, functional, and stylish. This legendary award-winning truck gives you that first-class feel. Allen Samuels in Waco, the place to shop for Ram trucks. First responders get $500 extra cash.
Come by. Let's be friends.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, cause weight gain, and wreak havoc on your sexual desire and performance. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results, so if you're tired of being tired, I challenge you to man up and Google search Low T Waco or go online, pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $150 a month, includes lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, follow-up visits compared to $395 a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T as board-certified physician consultations will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone available. Contact Petty Clinic Low T today, just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway. Petty Clinic Low T, helping men become the high-performance men they deserve to be. PettyClinicLowT.com or Google search Low T Waco.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injuries, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for our weekly segment with NFL Hall of Fame columnist John McClain. Brought to you by Pioneer Steel and Pipe, where customer service is their main focus, and best in metal, steel, and pipe for large or small projects, with 2 locations in Waco and Bryan. Family owned and operated since 1943.
John McClain, Hall of Fame writer, columnist. Tuesdays at 5:30. Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. John, thank you very much for being a part of the show. Training camps. Do you know the first one? The NFL, is it within the next 10, 12 days or so?
Yeah, it's whoever's in the Hall of Fame game. Yeah. I don't pay any attention. Are the Cowboys in it? I'm embarrassed that I don't know because I don't care. I'm only concerned with the rest. All I know is when I got to be outside for like a month, and it starts on the 29th of July.
Raiders, Jaguars, John.
Raiders and Jaguars. Boy, that's going to inspire a lot of interest.
That's why, yeah, I mean, you're not the only one that's going to forget that.
I watched the thing on the NFL Network this morning. They asked them what fan bases were the most deserving of a Super Bowl, and one of these former players said the Jaguars. I'm saying, are you bleeping kidding me? The Lions have won one playoff game in 61 years, have not won a championship since the 50s. The Bills lost 4 Super Bowls. The Vikings lost 4 Super Bowls. I believe the Lions and the Bills and the Vikings are much more deserving, their fans, of a Super Bowl than the Jacksonville Jaguars.
John, I think since the last time we had you on, Baker Mayfield has been traded to Carolina. Matt Rule trying to find some sort of lightning with his quarterback room, which has struggled. Your thoughts about what they got and what they gave up?
Well, they gave up a can of corn. And Mayfield is motivated by money and revenge. The first game of the season, they host the Browns in Charlotte. Boy, you know he is going to have such a big chip on his shoulder to fill the Browns after the things they leaked about him. And they've been leaking things since the trade, which I think is gutless for people to do. And, it was a year and a half ago that he helped the Browns go 11-5 and beat Pittsburgh and threw 3 touchdowns in a playoff game. First time a Browns quarterback won a road game on the playoffs, I believe, since '69. And then it all fell apart last year because he suffered a shoulder injury to his left shoulder, making a tackle against the Texans in the second game of the season. So he's going to be healthy. He's going to be motivated. That thing about competing with Sam Darnold, give me a break. Darnold hadn't been worth a damn in the last 2 years. They'll find a way to send him to some team for a conditional 7th-round pick that needs a quarterback. But it'll be Mayfield. Maybe he will save Matt Rule's job. Everybody over there tells me Matt's on the hot seat, although he does have 4 years left on that original 6-year deal for like $56 million, and it would help him if Christian McCaffrey could stay healthy. He hasn't stayed healthy since he signed his big contract. But I'm like you guys, I'm pulling for Matt Rule, and I'm pulling for Baker Mayfield.
John, what are your thoughts on the Texans Battle Red helmet that they introduced?
I like it. They're going to wear it one time this season. They're going to wear it in their only primetime game against the Eagles on Amazon, and they'll wear it with their red. They used to have a uniform that was all red they wore once a year, and we call it the ketchup bottle because that's what they look like. So they ditched the red pants, and it's a red helmet that'll go with red jerseys and white pants. It looks really good. And I think that the games where they wear their color rush uniform, they ought to wear this one too. I think this one kind of makes them look kind of badass, which they're not.
Yeah, speaking of ketchup bottles, Pittsburgh's changing the name of their stadium. Did you see that?
Oh, yeah. Heinz didn't want to pay as much money as they asked for, and Heinz has been had the naming rights since they left Three Rivers Stadium and moved down the river to Heinz Field. And one of the best things about having naming rights for so long, this season everybody's going to call it Heinz Field. Maybe half of the next season people call it Heinz Field. So Heinz is going to get a couple extra years out of it. Just like it took me forever to get used to the Raiders leaving Oakland for L.A. Mm-hmm. Then it took me a couple of years to get used to them going back to Oakland from L.A. So Heinz has gotten a lot of mileage. I never understood why they needed it anyway. As far as I'm concerned, there's not another ketchup out there but Heinz.
The Whataburger ketchup, I guess, what you see now. You can get that at a grocery store.
John Rob Gronkowski says even if Tom Brady calls, he is not going to unretire. I know there's probably a lot of people that will roll their eyes at that, but do you believe him when he says that?
I believe him now. I think that's the way he feels. He knows what it's like to retire. He stayed out a year, came back, won a Super Bowl. And you never know if, say, the Bucs tight end goes down and all of a sudden they need somebody. Maybe he'll come back. Pretty sure he probably doesn't like the idea of going through training camp, even though it's such a piece of cake today compared to the way it used to be. But it wouldn't surprise me if we don't see him again. I'm not exactly sure what he'd do. He had a chance on TV. He wasn't very good. I think with his personality, you would think he'd be good because he'll say anything, but he might be better as a WWE analyst instead of the NFL.
Or hell, he could be a wrestler and be a superstar. Just his personality alone is already very much right in tune with what they do.
It's already been in there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you're right. He had. Hey, I was curious about this. Condoleezza Rice, the former U.S. Secretary of State, is joining the ownership group of the Denver Broncos. What does that entail? Does that mean she must be a financial contributor, or how does that work?
It can be any way you want it. And the NFL wants minority ownership. They can't get anyone to step up and get approved by the team to be the next owner. And so they think that if you have minorities in part of the ownership group, maybe eventually they'll have a group that might buy the team if it becomes for sale, or they might buy another franchise. And I'm pretty sure she's putting in some money, but I don't think she's putting in a lot of money, because think out, if you just put in 1% of $4.5 billion,
jeez,
maybe it's like 100%. I told Bob McNair when he had his partners with the Texans, and he told me one of them, I said, how in the world does he have $2 million to buy in? He said, well, we will take it out of his cut of the profits. I said, in other words, you can make me a partner.
Yes.
He said, I could, but I'm not.
Yeah, I'm not. And I'll always, anytime I think about Bob McNair and the Texans being born, I go back to, I don't know if it was in New Orleans or Miami or where it was, when he was walking around with that, the replica of a stadium, and nobody was giving Houston much of a chance, were they, John, at that particular time? And they ended up getting the new franchise.
That was in Tampa. He paid $75,000 for that model. It was built at San Mateo, California. He had it trucked all the way to the Super Bowl. He put it up in the middle of the media room. And one night I went down about 1 a.m. to see if I'd missed any quote sheets or anything like that. And there he is doing an interview with Japanese TV. And he's saying it in English, and they're translating back in Japanese while he's discussing the stadium that would become Reliant and is now NRG.
What does it take for an owner to be shown the door, other than obviously Richardson at Jacksonville? But in the Daniel Snyder case, I know we've asked you this before, Congress has accepted an offer for him to testify, I guess, by Zoom or whatever, July 28th. What does it take for the NFL to tell an owner he must leave?
Well, first of all, say they They had a vote. You got to have 3/4 of the owners to vote him out. Then he's going to sue. And then you have discovery. Do you think Jerry Jones and Robert Kraft are going to want to open their books? That's why St. Louis got $800 million. The owners didn't want to open their books. And Snyder's been around long enough to know a lot of secrets, to know a lot of dirt. What they want is for an owner like Jerry Richardson to say, okay, enough is enough. I'm getting out before the posse comes to town to investigate me. And he sold. And I don't think Snyder would do that. That's why I don't think Snyder would be forced to sell, because he knows too many of the dirty little secrets.
John, thank you very much. Big 12
Thank
Media
you, guys.
Days.
Sick 'em, have fun.
You too, John McClain. Hall of Fame writer and columnist, recently, when the last month was inducted into the Texas Sports Hall of Fame Media Hall of Fame as well. We had Brad Sham on yesterday, voice of the Cowboys, who was a part of that as well. When we come back, I love at times, it depends on what I'm doing. If I'm working on sales or maybe guest or just relaxing, I will get on the YouTube channel, 365 Sports, and there are the replay segments. And there is a lot of great discussion from those who watch it and then comment. So Robert McClain made a comment on one of them the other day, and I replied to him, and then he came back with a really, really good response. And I'm going to read that. And if you don't know, yes, our podcasts are available on replay if you go to 365 Sports. And this is 365 Sports and Sick on 365 Radio.
Cars priced right both day and night. And Richard Car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. And Richard Car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. And Richard Car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. And Richard Car in Waco, Texas.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like our free First mobile app, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. That's the First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
In Texas, there's pea-size hail and baseball-size hail. Guess which one hit our house? We didn't even know where to begin, but we called our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent, and he was so reassuring. He knew exactly what to do to get our house back into shape and our lives back to normal. Now, we're even more thankful for the roof over our heads.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Are you a Sikkim 365 superfan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at Sikkim365.com.
All right, back on tomorrow. We'll be live at 3, but we will be working bright and early when Brett Yormark is introduced by Dr. Linda Livingstone around 8:30 to open up Big 12 Media Days at AT&T Stadium. Levi, Jack, Emery, Garrett will all be there. Craig and I will be there. Also, Grayson, Brian Etheridge, and others will be there for us as we bring you interviews throughout the day. So I brought this up. When we have a show, and then we put these up, the whole show goes up, but also different segments. And one of the segments, Big 12 getting ready for a brighter tomorrow, Big 12 expansion, conference realignment. And there were some sponsors. The new Big 12 will get a huge cut in TV revenue, and then we'll split this reduced revenue with more teams. Talk about the new incoming teams. Stupid is, stupid does. Then Robert said it's like they're oblivious to why all this conference jumping is going on. And I asked him, I said, oblivious, who is oblivious? We've discussed this every single day. So he responded, he goes, it wasn't directed at anyone in particular. I read other message boards, listened to other shows as well, and I can definitely tell you that many, if not most, Big 12 fans seem not to understand what is going on in college football. There is a culling out going on right now. This is why Oklahoma and Texas joined the SEC, and also USC and UCLA, the Big Ten. There are going to be teams left out in the new realignment or new alignment. I don't think there will be more than 45 or whatever. So I don't agree with that. I don't see.
Yeah, and how is that and how is that anything that people didn't already that's the basis of the discussion, Robert, is the fact that there's the talk about going to how many times have we discussed that? We discussed that multiple times of the talk about the super leagues and the AFC, NFC. How many freaking times have I had to say that comparison? So yeah, I'm lost here as to what he's referring to.
Well, I'm just reading it. There's some really good stuff that comes on the replay. The SEC sees value in UVA or Virginia Tech, and so we discuss it every day.
Absolutely nothing that's not been discussed. I don't know what he's talking about.
From Sean, as a West Virginia fan, I look forward to the parity of the new league. Games should be good each year, knowing that any team could step up will give fans more involvement. I also agree the terms in this league can easily make a name, the teams in this league can easily make a name for themselves by winning out-of-conference games. That is one of the keys the Big 12 has to do, period. They have, not even Oklahoma and Texas did that enough. Texas was struggling winning games in conference. Just be true, but to win the games in the non-conference battles, to win, if there are good games, win them. That would help, whether it's against the SEC, the Big Ten, the ACC, or the Pac-12. So that's another one. Also from U.S. Bear Force, one thing the Big 12 needs to figure out going forward is a Thanksgiving rivalry weekend. Baylor needs to play Brigham Young or TCU, period. There needs to be absolutely no discussion of us playing any schools on the last week of November. I know we get Texas this year to close out get Texas this year, which closes out maybe the rivalry. But in the future, I want the conference to lock in one of those two matchups down the road. That's from U.S. Bear Force.
Yeah, I mean, that's cool. I do think it's going to be interesting to see, what the mixture is as far as the new schools and the old schools and kind of how they balance that out, how they set that up. I mean, there's not really anything that's super solidified right now. It's not like Baylor and TCU close out the year every year or, anything along those lines. So there's definitely ways to get creative for Brett Yormark and company and try to create some traditions and try to create some big exciting weekends and and do all of that. So hopefully they're listening, and hopefully they've got some ideas, and I'll be interested to hear what he's got to say tomorrow. But yeah, I mean, sounds good to me. I definitely think that Baylor's got some already built-in rivals, and I am curious. I mean, how much do they respect the history while also welcoming in and ushering in the new schools and kind of creating the new history? How does that go? How do you determine who's playing who when the final year of the Big 12 rolls around? Are you going to give Texas and OU to the new schools, or are you going to let them face, the teams that they've been playing? Things like that I'm interested to see.
From Tommy, I agree that Big 12 not only will not miss the marquee programs, but will thrive, and eventually the conference will produce elite programs, given the opportunity. Basically, Oklahoma and Texas sold their brands. They will never be worth more than they are now as far as what they're talking about with Texas and Oklahoma. Huge, huge mistake on their part. Don't forget, if not for a 4 overtime loss, Kansas State will be playing for a national championship. That was, of course, I think the 1998 game against Kansas State.
Gary, you're shaking your head. Do you think the Big 12 screwed or something?
I do.
Okay.
Since all of this started, I've kind of been at the consensus of it's really about brands, right? And once everybody left the Big 12, that left them essentially without any brand power. Mm-hmm. I think there are great teams. I think there are really solid teams. I think Baylor is arguably one of the best, most consistent programs in the nation. But this isn't about the product on the field. I think that's been firmly determined. Right. And from that aspect, I feel like the Big 12 is going to get left behind. And that's kind of what posed the question earlier. It was off the when we were during the break. But we hear all this conversation, right, about the ACC and their contract with ESPN. We hear about Fox, obviously, what they're going to do with the Big 10. What the hell is going to happen to what the Big 12 has right now with ESPN Plus? Is that going to go by the wayside? And if that does, that's still eyes, that's still money ESPN's going to lose. I just feel like it's to a point where it's not about what you do anymore on the field, on the court. It's about the eyes you draw in, and I just don't see anybody in the Big 12 having that consistent, I want to dial in and watch this on a regular week in and week out basis where you see in these other conferences.
Andy Staples wrote a column about this and talked about over a certain amount of years' time. And there are teams in the Big 12 that held their own against teams that you think of as bigger brands with eyeballs. Now, are they going to bring in the same eyeballs as a Texas and Oklahoma? Not unless they start being who they were, Oklahoma State and Baylor last year, every year.
That's why I've been saying I do think winning matters. I think if you win and you get a number 2 next to your ranking and you get in the college football playoff and you beat Georgia, I think that matters. I think that matters a great deal. I think had some of these teams who have been knocking on the playoffs been able to get into the playoffs, TCU, Baylor, Oklahoma State, then I think that would have made a difference. I think you have to look at the Big 12 a little bit differently. If all of a sudden you're looking at 4 teams and instead of it being Ohio State, Bama, Georgia, and Clemson, it's whoa. This is Baylor doing in there, Oklahoma State or TCU with Trayvon Boykin and company. I understand your point. I mean, I'm curious to see what they're going to be valued as, because I don't think ESPN's going to come with some huge hotshot offer, but I think it's also not going to be the case where there's going to be no interest. I mean, I think it is going to be curious to see where they fall in line, but there's going to be some demand for it. You can't sell me that Baylor, Oklahoma State's going to be less important than Vandy versus Kentucky in football. Like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And yet that would be a game worth, $20 million more? But, I mean, I'd need to see. They better have some pretty high TV figures. But you're right. I mean, a lot of it's about TV viewership and all that. But, yeah, it's all, who the heck knows, quite frankly. I mean, who the heck knows? I've seen every reason given for why this is this. The only thing that I disagree with is whatever the comment that was about, you guys don't get it. This is all about, I have no idea what that person was talking about.
Well, I do know this, and I said this yesterday, and I got more reaction from this than a lot of things I've said, is that why should Rutgers be in it to play for a national title and not Utah?
Well, I think that's
Baylor or Oklahoma State or anybody else that's not, a part of the Big Ten and SEC.
I think that's the best argument for, against TV ratings or prestige or whatever is like, yeah, I mean, if you're a team and you're a good team and you have an opportunity, I think you should have an opportunity to play for it. I think if you were to sit there and create this thing and every year there's 1 or 2 teams that have an argument, I guess that's just college football the way it kind of is now. The teams that are left out of the playoff, but I think if you're putting them up for their own separate thing where they're not even allowed to be in the club, then I think that would lead to, okay, well, we're national champions over here. Where does that eventually lead to? Years down the road, it's going to be this team versus this team, and so it all comes full circle. I think if you do it that way, I think if you're going to determine a national champion, you're determining the national champion, not the National Super League champion, and then there's another national champion, although there's multiple of those as well. So, is it going to be D1, D2, D3, D4? I mean, who knows, man? It's like every topic's got a billion different ways you can go with it, and you can argue why it's headed that way or why it's not headed that way, but I think it's very clear, we're already in a situation where it's two leagues that are dominant money-wise, maybe not so much on the field-wise, but mostly money-wise, and in some cases with the SEC and Big Ten on the field. But it'd be fascinating to hear all the talk with just all the media gathered and everybody's thoughts, with all that's going on.
We'll be doing that tomorrow and Thursday. Look forward to it with columnists and writers and coaches and players and commissioner and much more. Roger the Dodger. There's about 6 SEC teams and 6 Big Ten teams who really are the ones collecting a check. And that's another thing that gets overlooked. You may be in a conference where you're about to get 60, 80, 90, or $100 million a year, but there are many teams in the SEC that are not bringing in the eyeballs. They're a part of what it makes them so strong. We've discussed this. They're as strong as the weakest link. But there are numerous teams in the SEC that don't bring in the same viewers as half of the Big 12, or even the ones who are the incoming schools. They never get brought up. It's like they're in witness protection.
No,
program.
they definitely benefit. They definitely flaunt the top half and don't really pretend like the other half even exists. You just get the impression that everybody's got Georgia success and Georgia money and Georgia TV, and you forget. Oh wait, no, there's a bunch of other schools in here, but it kind of gets overlooked because there's a handful that all have massive amounts of money and success and all of that, and that carries them, to the big fat deal they got, and carries them to being able to proclaim the national championships, whether your team you root for actually played for it or not. All these last 20 years, how many times it's happened? What, like 12 times over the last 20 years, whatever crazy number it is. I don't know off the top of my head.
12 the last 16 years.
Yeah, I mean, so there's not going to knock them whatsoever, but I do think there is a place for the Big 12, I guess is what I'm sort of ultimately getting to. And is it going to ever be a conference that gets a big TV deal like what we're seeing right now? Probably not, but is it a conference that I think's a little taken for granted and has more upside if somebody behind the scenes is pulling the strings the right way? Yeah, I do think there is some untapped potential with the Big 12. Will you ever get those brands to be the level of Alabama and so on and so forth? No, especially without the opportunity to do so. So again, it's a fascinating topic. It's a never-ending topic because you can go 100 different ways for why a super conference playoff makes sense. You go 100 different ways why college football needs to remain sort of where it is, and you can have the same conversation a million different ways, but who the heck really knows?
Of the 12 of 16 national titles, most of those, and I could miss a team here because I did yesterday, Georgia, Florida, LSU, Auburn, Alabama. There's more teams that have not won than there are the 5 or so that have. And you never hear about that. Now, if you're a part of, listen, Baylor won the national championship in basketball. Kansas did as well, and everybody puts the flag up. But when we hear about the SEC, which is the elite conference in college football without question, the facts are there. But there are a lot of teams that aren't in that race and have not even been a sniff at when it comes to winning a national championship.
Yeah, but nobody talks about them because who
That's
cares?
My whole point
yeah,
I know,
but it's like if Oklahoma football won a national title, we can go, well, what about Kansas? I mean, it wouldn't matter. Who cares about Vanderbilt? I mean, honestly,
it would have been nice if Oklahoma could have done that since 2000.
It would have, but they didn't, and they haven't, and they probably won't quickly in the SEC either. So I mean, I understand where you're coming from, but I don't want to make this an anti-SEC thing. Their top brands carry them. They're adding 2 more top brands. They're the most beloved in terms of ESPN and TV deal, with the exception of the Big Ten, and they're one of 2 super conferences. But yeah, there's some dead weight there in some cases, but I think every conference has that. What were you going to say, Garrett?
I was just trying to think because I feel like while we don't talk about the other teams in the SEC, they are being carried. If more conferences would have had even more than 2 teams win it.
Yeah.
You can make a case for any of those conferences.
Well, I think the biggest thing that helps them, and this goes back to the sort of the propaganda thing with ESPN, is that everybody celebrates the conference.
Yeah. Absolutely.
They claim the titles like they're theirs. Like Vandy's like, SEC, when Alabama wins a championship. Here comes, Florida, Georgia's back. You know what I'm saying, though? It's like LSU doesn't like Georgia, but for about 5 days afterwards, they're going to go, Georgia, SEC's now won 9 of the last 12, and, that kind of a deal.
Well, I also think it depends on the person you're talking to, for instance. Okay,
sure.
David Hellman, big LSU fan. He hates it. Like, he was on here, when Ole Miss won the baseball championship. He didn't want to see that.
Right.
Me, an LSU fan. Hell yeah, I'm going to – you won it for the league. Hell yeah, bring it on.
There's more of you than there are of the I'm not celebrating anybody. And that's why there's this whole, it's the SEC, it's the whole feel, it's this club thing. Whereas what's the feeling in the Big 12 right now? And ever since its existence, when is Texas going to try to torpedo this thing? They don't give a crap about it. Oklahoma doesn't give a crap about it. Meanwhile, the teams who, maybe you would have thrown a bone, Bob Bowlesby, you didn't get them a shot in the playoff because you just sat on your hands, and I still will never, ever think that he did that the right way. I don't care what he says or anybody else says. That was not handled the right way, even if they would have gotten left out. You have to put up a fight, and he put up no fight and left it in the hands of people that they were not going to fight for Baylor or TCU. So I will never agree that was the right decision, but there is a camaraderie. There's a respect, even if there's a hatred, there's a respect there, whereas I don't think there's ever been any respect really across the board in the Big 12, and that's been as much of its Achilles heel as anything.
Because there has been that, if in fact one or two teams aren't the one that win, then the conference is down.
You're still thriving.
Such a bad,
every time Baylor wins the Big 12, it's a down year. I can quote an exact Texas writer who every time it's been somebody not named Oklahoma, and it's very, very rarely been Texas, it's a down year in the Big 12.
Yep.
Every time. Doesn't matter if it's the greatest version of that team ever. It's a down year. Why? Because Oklahoma or Texas didn't win it. And there is that perception nationally that kills them. But if Vandy were to write Kentucky. Yeah. Nobody's saying what's going on in the SEC Kentucky? No, it's SEC Kentucky football. It's they embrace it. Whereas if Kansas State were to do that, Texas, screw them. I don't want to see them have success, or Oklahoma or whatever. There's no brotherhood or camaraderie, and you can have rivalries and still have respect. And I don't feel like there's been really any respect in the Big 12 for maybe ever in its existence.
All right, Garrett, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Anne-Marie and Jack.
And I think that's a big part of why when I look at the Big 12 and its outlook, I do say, not to be misquoted by another Texas outlet again, but I do say that's why I think the new Big 12 is going to thrive, is because there is going to be a level of respect across the board that has been missing, and not a feeling of we're better than you and you should be glad that we're even allowing you near us, which is how it's always felt.
Hopefully everybody will celebrate if somebody does well. There will be hated rivalries. It's hard for TCU to like what Baylor's doing, or vice versa. We get that as well. All right, thank you. We'll be back on the air tomorrow at 3 o'clock from AT&T Stadium in Arlington. Thanks to Three Nations Brewing and also John Royers, but are also our sponsors across the board for every single day. On Twitter yesterday, Dolly_drama. Talking about following this show since last fall. Thank you very much. He's a UCF fan. Can't wait for you guys one day to broadcast in Orlando. Neither can we. Good night, Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.